just a ride. Whoa, oh, it's just a ride.
All right there, bud. Welcome to the Just a Ride podcast, episode number 8.
Hey there, ho there, hoser.
Are we going with the northern flavor today?
We appreciate you, Pooba. Wankba, good to see you guys.
How's everybody?
What's going on, boys?
I'm the Peeba, and I'm happy to be here. I miss you guys. I haven't seen you for a couple of weeks. What have you been up to?
We create this illusion as though we're just always here, steadfast every week. You know, dependable.
Most of the time, it's...
These guys are adventurers out in the woods, punching
look,
bears.
motherfucker, you need to call me back. I
feel that.
That's a real story.
I keep all my stuff away from the studio. Now that I do 5 podcasts a day, I'm like, okay, if I look at my phone, I'm going to have to do a bunch of things. So I can, or else I'll just be up till 6 in the morning every day.
Which you are.
Yeah,
I am anyway. Yeah.
You want to know what's a problem for me is fucking Discord.
Discord?
Like ours specifically.
Oh no.
I'll be working and then I'll hear this, and I'm like, and I'll go, and then I'm over there talking about fucking shit and dicks for 20 minutes. I'm like, God damn it, I got to get my work done.
This was too fun to talk about dicks and shit. Well, you and I both went to Seattle, Shaiden.
Yeah.
And we could talk about.
You got to do all kinds of cool stuff.
I did. I took a whole day off.
Yeah.
And I got to play. I got to watch. I got to play.
It's
I got to
really
play Major League Baseball.
When you take a full day off, dude.
Well,
I can't really remember the last time that you did that, except for when it was against your will.
I stressed hard, but it was fun. I like taking days off. I could be the laziest cunt in the universe, but I just not today, not for a little while. But no, I got to watch 2 baseball games. The guys that listen to the Inside Scoop have heard this story already, probably. But fucking Shohei Ohtani from the Los Angeles Angels, the pitcher-hitter guy. Got to watch him go 0 for 9 with a walk and an RBI. But it was still rad. And Mitch Haniger came back. It was the game he came back. He's a guy for the Mariners. That's good. So that the crowd loved him. But all I noticed was Seattle is not as bad as I remember from the last time we played there.
And this was your first time to that stadium too, right?
Yeah. I've never been to T-Mobile.
Was it the big stadium?
Yeah.
Like right in downtown or close to it?
Yeah. It used to be Safeco, now it's T-Mobile.
Yeah. Cool.
It is so beautiful and well put together.
Did they have it open or?
Yeah, it was open. Great. Yeah, it was. Oh fuck! I dress in all black just to make my life simple. So I'm all black all the time, and I wore pants. And I'm like, it's Seattle. I'll bring a sweatshirt, and it'll be cold at night because we're going to 2 games.
Nope.
It was their hottest day of the year, and I look like my friend that I was with. He's like, okay, the vampire's in the house, goth boy or whatever.
That's kind of normal for you anyway, though.
It is, and my pasty white skin's just getting burned and melted under the sun. For the first game, we're in like left field, right above the fucking field, and the sun is just right on our face. But it was cool because they had the Blue Angels were flying overhead that day, and the fucking.
In all fairness, if you had gone in like short sleeves and shorts, they probably would have made you move because you would have been like a reflector,
right?
Interfering with the pitcher.
I don't get a lot of vitamin D. I think that might be an issue as to why I might be manic and crazy.
Did you happen to notice if they were still serving? I believe it's chocolate-covered grasshoppers. I think
they do have at Eggers. Yeah, I didn't notice that, but people were talking about it. Eat the bugs. We will be eating bugs soon.
I went years.
And Eggers is trying it out for everyone for like $30 a plate.
The last time I went, speaking of Edgar's, I saw Edgar Martinez. I believe it was I think it was the last game that he played.
Ooh.
Nevertheless, he hit a walk-off home run against the Yankees, and that was the last time I was there.
Oh, that's special.
That was a whole other era ago.
Yeah, but that was a great era for baseball. Yeah. I love that baseball. Shaiden's over here the same way we talk about nerd shit for Jeff.
See what it's like when you're talking about your dork stuff?
I get it. I suddenly have a little bit of empathy for you because now I experienced it, so that means now I can.
Now you can.
That's right.
Honestly, though, you guys know I don't really give a shit about sports, generally speaking.
Right.
I once did, but I just haven't for years and years. But I really enjoy going to sporting events live, just because it's the same reason I enjoy going to concerts. Like, it's just cool to see that human organism all together like that and all focused on one subject matter and
following unwritten rules mostly for the most part. Like we all line up here and nobody pushes, we don't take cuts, and nobody has to say that. It's kind of fun to see humans work like an anthill.
And when you're watching the actual sport, I mean, it's 3-dimensional versus watching it on TV that you can see, so you pick up on so many other things and emotions that mean, even through a television, you can pick up on the emotion of a rocking crowd. But when you're there, it's different. Not
Oh man,
you can't smell it. You can't feel those.
Yeah,
the concrete or metal structure under you that's like rumbling with people freaking out. Like that. There's something about that that's just like thrilling on a primal level.
what's the most exciting sport you guys have seen live? I've never been to a European soccer game.
It was intense.
Snooker.
I was playing.
I love snooker.
Badminton. It was a rousing game.
They get cursy. They get real cursy with their shorts.
Ants in your pants was a pretty intense game. Oh,
Shoots and ladders, professional level.
hockey's awesome.
That
Hockey's
one
a lot
when
of
Billy
fun.
fell into the lava, we never saw him again.
That's what I was going to say. Hockey is really hard to watch for me on TV. And it's not the sport that I ever got into.
Oh, yeah, there, bud. I
Yeah,
love
buddy.
some good fucking hockey.
I'm not interested in the Hoosiers. I like the twofer though, but
I shouldn't even bring up
It's super fun
hockey
live.
with a Canadian in the house.
Yeah,
but I think I'm safe.
he's flinching over there.
I still get riled up about hockey, man. I'll go to like Chiefs games is one of the things that I will always say yes if
Fuck
I
yeah.
can.
Last game I
go,
went to
I'll-
was with you,
yeah,
actually.
So fun.
I will fucking go.
Live hockey is the shit.
That fight that happened right in front of us.
Yeah.
So I know a guy who knows a guy. A friend of mine knows him.
Weird.
That ended that kid's career. He destroyed his knee.
No shit.
He was looking to go pro, and
Wow.
he did not get picked up.
Yeah,
That's
well,
terrible.
maybe you should have been tougher there, guy. That's
It's
all
a
I'm saying.
knee. Knees can't be tough. They're just fucking stupid knees.
He was picked to start the fight.
I was tough
sucks.
as
No,
fuck.
that-
My
that-
knees are wimpy knees.
That really sucks, man. I can't imagine. That's like my worst nightmare as a musician. You know, it's like that's like my sport, I guess. Heavy
Yeah.
air quotes, but if something were to happen to my hand to where I couldn't play my instrument anymore, I would be
that's an issue.
so devastated.
Yeah.
Right. And as musicians, it's like
You know,
our throats.
I mean,
or our
even
singers,
Def
our
Leppard,
throats.
Def Leppard's drummer figured it out.
Yeah.
He did.
So
He totally figured it out. I don't
You
know how
know-
you do chords with your feet.
Yeah.
Hockey,
with
too.
foot
I've seen
pedals.
it, but I don't want to. I don't like looking at my feet, let alone doing
Oh yeah, shit! I'm not wearing shoes. Here, deal with this shit. I'm going shoeless in the old studio today.
Real quick on hockey too, being like what I think is the most exciting sport that I've ever been to see. You can take somebody who knows nothing about hockey and they can get excited about the
Exactly,
game. I took
yeah.
my mother years ago to one of the Chiefs games, and I introduced her to Blue Moon. That was fun. It was
the
fun
Blue
to see
Moon
my
beer?
mom. Yeah, see my mom drink. That was a good time.
Nice.
And it was a really good game just right off the bat, and there wasn't much time left in the first period, and finally Spokane scores, and I mean the place just gets rocking. It was getting,
time.
I think it was even a playoff game. And it was going, my mom's cheering, screaming, and she's hugging me, and wants another beer. She's having a great time.
Give me another one of those moon
And then all of a
drinks.
sudden, I see this funny look on her face.
Star Wars drink. Bring me that, Jeff.
She's looking up at the scoreboard. She's like, 1 point? All that for 1 point?
Yep.
That's a lot of work.
Yes, it is.
Delayed gratification, Mom.
It's like soccer, but soccer they can't fight. If they even get really close to each other, it's like that's a yellow card.
If they get close to
That's
other-
a red card. Get the fuck
Yeah,
back
they
out
should
of
let
there.
them fight. That's why footballers are so passive aggressive and off the field.
I'm
It's
surprised
like,
they
just
don't-
let them hit
Yes.
each other.
Hockey guys, they get it out. They're buds afterwards. They don't care. They
You
got
should say,
teeth knocked out.
just say they're allowed to punch each other. They just can't use their legs. That's
Yes.
their strong part.
Yeah, exactly. Just like a skater can't take a skate off and stab a guy with it, like Adam Sandler
Soccer
did.
players fall worse than basketball players. I'm surprised they don't literally have safe spaces drawn on the soccer fields now for guys
Does
to go
seem-
for a couple minutes.
Well, when they get a yellow card or a red card and they lose their best player for a few minutes, I don't know how soccer works, but that's a strategic win, isn't it? I don't know. They're like, oh, I fell and he hurt me. He did it on purpose. Give him a red.
Well, just like basketball.
Give him the red. Yeah.
That's just the art of war.
Basketball is tough. Yeah, it is. Basketball's it's a little tougher, I think. Maybe I'm going to get nasty letters, but the basketball players are just bigger people too. I mean, you take an elbow from Shaq.
If you're 7 foot and you fall, it's going to hurt. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
played
fell
around
from
with
one
big ass
story
guys
up,
there.
dude.
Yeah, seriously. The hardest I ever got hit, besides a football story that I'll tell some other day, but was by a hip bone, a pelvic bone in the
Right in
ear,
your ear ball?
by a 7-foot guy that was on my team. He weighed like 190 pounds and was 7 feet, so he's just this skinny dude. But because he's just this massive a dude getting a pelvic bone in your ear is not. I was so pissed at him. I'm big, so I threw him across the thing, and our coach is like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "He pelvic boned my ear." Like,
How do you explain
I
that?
know, it's like I'm standing next to a giant tree, and he's fucking ow. So, I mean, I played football, and I think basketball guys, depending on what level you're playing and stuff, football's definitely more physical and shit, but it's not too far in basketball, and you're wearing shorts and like
football. You're all padded up. You know, the ball only moves an average of 12 minutes and 30 seconds a game from snap to tackle.
It's very intense.
Why?
From second to second.
You know, I joke about football. It's fun to watch, but it's like, so how long do you have to be a quarterback till you can be a halfback? And then, like, how long do you have to be a halfback till you can be a fullback? And then, like,
none of those.
Does that turn you into a wide receiver? I'm not really sure.
Depends on how tight your
And why
end
does
is.
it take 4 goddamn hours to play a game that's only should take an hour to play?
Well, it makes a lot of money for commercials.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so
It does.
I mean, high school
That's
games
exactly
don't go
why
that
I
long.
stopped watching Major League Sports. Was I couldn't handle the amount of advertising. I was like, this is just, it feels gross to me, and I'm also no longer convinced that a lot of it isn't set up beforehand anyway to a certain
the
degree.
sports?
Yeah.
It'd be hard to do, but yeah, the
I'm not saying
refereeing
the
and
whole
stuff.
thing is
No, I know what you're saying.
choreographed, but like it's just like, hey, you guys are going to do your damnedest to almost
get it.
win, but not actually win.
Well, we definitely want Edgar Martinez to hit a home run his last game against the Yankees. You know, that
the
kind
way-
of thing where they're like, and here's a fastball. We told him it's coming. Make the fans smile.
Back on hockey, why did we decide in Washington or Seattle we're going to have the Kraken?
I don't know. I love that. All the jokes.
That is,
with
oh my God, yeah.
for the fans and stuff.
because it
for, like,
practically
the
markets
crackheads.
itself, Jeff.
I think so. Here come the crackheads. Da, da, da.
And he's coming down the crack pipe.
Ooh, hit him right in the crack hole.
Welcome to the crack house. all the little hockey player fans are crack whores.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. That's not good. You're right, though. Somebody had to have a good sense of humor.
To this holiday season.
That's soccer, right? Or football?
What?
Is that football or is that hockey?
Hockey.
Is the Kraken hockey?
Yeah.
Like NHL hockey? Or is it?
Like, whatever league they are.
I think they're minor
not-
league.
There
Yeah,
was
they're
in
not
Seattle
NHL.
already, though. I thought it was soccer that was the Kraken.
Seattle had what? I think the Thunderbirds at some point.
Something like that. I, remember
I don't know. Like I
seeing
said,
it.
When I
don't
followed
really follow hockey.
it was
It's
all
just fun to
Canadian.
watch.
I didn't give a shit about U.S. teams. So.
All right. Well, we talked about sports to start this off, but you also went to Seattle and you got to see Coheed and Cambria.
Fucking did, and
So-
I felt like I was owed this show a little bit.
Yikes, bro.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
which is a
universe
little
owes me a
entitled of
bunch.
me.
It
I
matches your
realize.
age. It matches
Oh,
but-
dear.
But
Both of you guys offending a lot of folk
yeah,
with 2 sentences.
I'm really coming home to my millennial roots here. I
Old
felt
enough
very
that I can
entitled.
say it, and it's
He
acceptable.
put guacamole all over his toast with it.
That's fucking great, don't you?
I don't know.
No, the reason is because I had ticket. I've never seen Coheed come to Spokane since I've been of an age to go with my own money and buy a concert ticket. You know, but
But
they
they've
were
been
coming.
here a few times,
They
yeah.
were coming. They had. I just wasn't around for it. But
Yeah.
they were coming the year that everything shut down, where we did the 2 weeks to flatten the curve that became
2.5 years.
Yeah, 2.5 years, and. It was like on the fence. They're like, I don't know, are we going to do it or are we going to not do it? And then they canceled it last minute, and I was never able to get my money back for the tickets. And I was just like, which is not Coheed's fault. It's Ticketmaster's fault. Fuck you guys.
Always.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
from what I understand, that's their MO. Is
Oh, they're awful.
Yeah, they
Ask Pearl
do.
Jam,
They do
but-
whatever they can to not give refunds for sure. Yeah, but
I get it,
But,
I mean, it's shitty. But
I do too. But in that particular
It's a dick
scenario,
move.
it's like, fuck you guys. Like I didn't. It's not like I couldn't make it because I had a social engagement. You canceled the show because of a pandemic. But anyway. So I got to go see them in Seattle this time, and it was fucking rad, and it was really nice to just be in a mosh pit with a bunch of people. I haven't done that in quite some time.
What attracts you to Coheed and Cambria?
Well, so I think
drugs.
I think all the acid. No,
His hair.
Claudio Sanchez is like a huge inspiration to me, both as a lyricist and as like just the way he approaches being in a band, like it's his whole deal. I feel like they're the closest thing to our band
Right.
that you can get, just in the sense that they are very theatrical. They have a whole like mythos that surrounds, like they have a long running series
It's
of
like a
comic
sci-fi
books that
shit.
are
Yeah,
based
yeah.
off of like a world that they've created.
Yes.
And they most of their songs are about that, but they're also about, like, a lot of them are about just Claudio's life. Like when he had his first kid, he wrote a song called Atlas, and it was about him like squaring up with like, holy shit, I'm about to have a kid, my whole life is going to change. But he wrote it in the context of like characters in his comic books, but
Cool.
like, so the lyrics are always like a double entendre, and I don't know, they're just super fucking artistic and really humble, and they never really seem to lose their humanity like a lot of bands do when they gain a certain level of success.
Nobody sounds like him either. I don't think anybody sounds like him.
No, I agree. Well, especially Claudio. He
His
sings like a
voice,
girl. Yeah. Everybody that hears Coheed for the first time thinks they have a chick lead singer, but it's just a dude. He
He's
sings
rad.
really high.
He's
but
super.
really,
It's
really
kind of like
good.
Rush. It's very much like Rush.
I've never even heard it. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
You should check it out. You might
yeah.
actually like it. It's
Although
Well,
it's
you know,
there's
my music
sci-fi
taste
stuff
is-
involved.
everywhere.
eclectic, yeah.
So,
We have that in common.
The show.
Yeah, it was rad, and it was outdoors. I love outdoor.
What
concerts.
venue was it at?
It was at Marymore Park in Redmond, which
Fuck.
is really cool. Like it's just a huge park, and they have a lot of trees around the. You know, it's like you kind of like feel like you're in a forest grove with.
so
a
was
bunch
it
of people?
was it a camp then? Did you
No,
camp or you
not
just
from
showed up?
downtown.
No, I just showed up. I stayed at an Airbnb.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Mhm, yeah.
You mentioned that.
Fuck yeah. Fun.
Yeah,
Well,
had a
all
great
right.
time.
Right. Well, let's move along to what you did. How have you done? How have you been?
I've been great. So yeah, I've been dicking
That's
off
Jeff,
a lot.
by the way, in case you didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Hey.
Wankpaw.
How's everybody doing? I'm retired.
Right.
So I get to go to the lake a lot, and I did some paddle boarding.
He's jerking off a ton, as we're saying. He's
yeah.
just jerking a lot.
This guy's trying to convince
Well,
us
you
to
know.
move out of town. We're like, bro, jobs and shit.
It's already hard to get
Went
to the
down to the
gig
lake.
that pays $112 after tax.
Been retired for 5 minutes, and he thinks
Yeah.
the whole world has got to be on his schedule.
It would be nice to
what
get out of
schedule
town,
is the
though. and
problem?
It'd be lovely to pay the bills out there, the fucking rent or whatever. It's
Yeah,
very
no
low.
shit.
I went out and caught a bunch of frogs, like hundreds of them. They're just all over the beach. That was
Wow.
kind of fun. Just these little 1-inch frogs. And then the other day, got up in the morning, wanted to go for the morning walk, get the heart going, and got out there with the girlfriend. And right outside her trees is a little squirrel, little pink squirrel on the pavement. So I don't know if it fell out of the tree or what, but
Fell off the mama getting back on her.
something to that effect. So put it in the house. I'm like, well, I don't know what the hell to do with it. So put it in the house for then. Went for my walk, came back, put it down by the bottom of the tree. Because by then I'd posted something on Facebook, and a lot of people had a lot of ideas of what to do.
Right.
Eat it.
And one thing was
Yeah,
try
I
and
was
see if,
gonna eat it,
see if the mom will come pick it up. So I got a little Bluetooth speaker, and I found like a baby squirrel in distress. I put the little baby squirrel down at the bottom of the tree, and I ran it for about 10 minutes. And I was really worried about. I was thinking like, oh, that's going to get neighborhood cats and probably 1 to 2 coyotes. But that didn't.
But you're
happen.
watching, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course. I had my AR ready to go just in case.
You're like, I'm ready to save this baby squirrel, but I will kill anything else that comes into range.
I will kill 5 animals for
But
this
That's
animal
selective
likely to
humanity.
die.
I love
Lo and
Me
behold,
too.
this tree. I mean, this tree's probably 70.
I
80
set up
feet
this
tall.
scenario just to get my AR out.
That's right. I was ready. Yeah. It's kind of like hunting for coyotes with bunnies.
Right.
Yeah, nail them to the tree. That's
Yikes, bro.
That's the theory. That's terrible. I don't know if an asshole really does that. That's fucked
Jeff
up.
Getchell does not represent the
No, I
opinions
do
of
not. That's
SkatCast.
terrible.
Or SkatCast Networks or its affiliates.
God, it was good being on the show, guys. It was fun.
So you got a little baby squirrel.
Anyway, I got a little baby squirrel, but a squirrel started coming down the tree
for hearing the
from
call.
this call. Yeah, in about 10 minutes, and I was like, holy shit, it worked. I mean, I've called animals in before, but
It's coming down there. It's like
it doesn't
you're
happen
not-
very damn often.
All right,
Right?
that's enough
not
with the food tampering you advertised. You were way too young for me. Goodbye.
Yeah. No, it was really a baby. But the squirrel comes all the way down to the tree.
Whoopsies.
I don't know if she was related to Andrea Yates or what, but she confirmed it was a little baby and then ran the other way. I waited for 45 minutes and never came back.
Jeez.
So,
and that was the mom, maybe likely.
I would assume. I mean,
Maybe
But
not.
even another
Maybe
squirrel, I
not. There's
think
just
would
some
pick
other
it up.
random lady squirrel that's like, what's going on? Ooh, that's too much
could have been a dude.
responsibility
He's
for
like,
me.
yeah, that looks like
baby around. All right, I'd eat mine.
that looks
I'm
like
only
a lot
2
of
years old. I'm in my prime.
I've only got
That's like a
2
lot
years
of
left.
responsibility or child support. I think I'm just going to leave that.
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
So anyway, I picked it up, and so I have been feeding a little baby squirrel that doesn't even have fur on it every hour on the hour, and helping it go to the bathroom. And
You guys have left a pound of flesh for this little guy too. It sounds like.
yeah. So it was just going to be chill out time last night. Hey, come on over, watch a movie. So girlfriend
This isn't
comes
to the
over.
squirrel. This is to the girlfriend.
Yeah, the girlfriend. She comes over and
Using
she's
Netflix and chilling with the
she
little
just
squirrel,
fed the
the little
squirrel, and
baby
she's
rat.
kind of getting him tucked in on his little
Nutsy,
heating
huh?
pad and everything. She's like, I need to go to the house and go get him a little stuffed animal that he can snuggle with. And
Aw.
I mean, okay, that's a lot of effort, and I don't see it's reasonable, but she does if it's important to her. Okay.
It makes you happy.
And she's getting ready to leave and go out
Sound
the
like
door.
that much effort? Is just walking out the damn door, come back with the thing.
What exactly are you going to do? Well, I'm going to get a stuffed animal. And that's important right now? Yeah. So 15 minutes later, her daughter comes running, knocking on my door. She had fallen down the stairs, getting the stuffed animal, and ended up breaking her toe.
Oh, no. Well,
so I had to took her to the hospital. We thought she broke her foot.
Found
She ended
No
up
good
breaking her
deed
toe.
goes unpunished, my man.
Yeah.
So if this little thing ends up dying, it's going to be she broke her toe for nothing. And by the
Not
way,
for nothing, for doing the right
She didn't even
thing.
find the stuffed animal that she wanted. So
we'll get. Oh, that was my next question. Like, resolution: is the stuffed animal in with the little guy now, and does he like
there
it?
are other stuffed animals, but it isn't even the one that she wanted to get for it.
Okay. Well, but it's not for nothing. She was doing what she considered the right thing, which probably was. I think it was.
I
to
think
make
it's
the little
fantastic.
thing
No, I think it's
comfortable,
awesome.
absolutely right thing. And,
I
good
mean,
for you.
that's why you have someone in your life to think of things that you don't, right? She's very caring, and you know what this
Fucking-
little thing needs? Something to snuggle with.
That's right.
You know what?
Out Polly.
That's why I keep Zach.
Yeah.
We snuggle. Except for I'm a little ripe today.
Yeah.
I should tell that story real quick. Like, I don't know
we
what
don't
my
snuggle
problem
much
is.
in the summertime. It's usually kind of a fall and winter activity.
Fuck, yes. But stink for all of you guys. I don't know what my problem is. Anywho, let's talk about
Let's talk about your
some other
armpits,
stuff.
Zach.
No, I went to the baseball game and I was working like to the last minute basically to get all my show done, all the shows done. And I didn't even think about it. It's like, as an older dude, it's like, you got to shower every day if you go in public because, you're just a different ripey kind of guy. I didn't. And I was like, okay, I'll just change my clothes and it'll be fine. And, but I'm with my godson and, my oldest friend. So they're both like, they'd already known that I stink or whatever. But my godson's a little older and he's like wearing cologne and shit like that. And he's just like, Uncle Zach, what the hell? Kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, we need to get to the hotel.
You're embarrassing the family.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, 4.5 hour drive together. It's not going to be so bad. But then we went right from the car and didn't go to the hotel first. We went right onto the train in Seattle.
Nice.
And so
close
I was
quarters.
that guy. Yeah, dude. And
You
it
had
was,
your arm up like this,
I
too,
did.
didn't you? Holding onto the bar.
Dude, the funny thing about it
a
is
little 5'2" woman tucked right under your
close enough though, because I was gigantor over this little guy, but the guy was talking mad shit on the phone and he was annoying to everyone. So I'm like getting close to him,
You're
like
justice has been served.
feel the pit smell in your nose. So it was one of those things. But I just remember thinking like, what a terrible scenario. I'm the guy, because I complained in San Francisco all the time where it's like, can someone put some deodorant on? And now I'm like, no, I don't feel like it.
Technically, it's just Seattle camouflage. I'm sure you fit right in.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was overpowered immediately by the urine and human feces smell.
Yeah.
So whatever. But although I didn't see human feces in mass like before,
I didn't either.
But I smelled
I
it.
got a lot of urine smell.
urine,
Like
that's
everywhere
never
I
going
went
away.
in, in downtown. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have to say, credit where credit's due, because the last time I was in Seattle before this time was like, shortly after all the rioting and everything was going on over there, and it was like kind of heartbreaking to me because I love Seattle.
Yeah.
I've gone to Seattle a lot, over the years, and it was just trashed. Like everywhere I went was just trashed, and this time it was better. It wasn't quite back to its former glory, but it's definitely improved.
It was shitty when we played in like 2018 for that Central Saloon show. When Sovereign played down at Central Saloon, it was like a shock. It was like, what the fuck happened down here? Because it was just looked like Fallout kind of, and that was before that shit.
Well, it was kind of in a state of gradual decline for a while, but then it really just sort of went wow,
Yeah,
and now
went
it
real
seems like
down.
it's starting to rebound. So
It felt like
I hope
it.
it continues on that trajectory, because I really do love Seattle. In my heart, I
Yeah.
love what I remember Seattle
Same-
was.
dude, I love that city. It's probably my favorite city,
Yeah.
even over Spokane. Even over Boise, where I'm from. Sorry, Boise. But Seattle's just like this big little city. Like when you go to San Francisco, you're like, this is a big ass city, even though it's just about the same size. I mean, millions of people wise, it's like 5 million people in San Francisco or something like that in the area. And the city's like 700,000 or whatever. Seattle's like 500 or 560 or something like that in the city area, and then a few million people, 4 or 5 million. Seattle feels like a small city to me. San Francisco feels like a big bustling metropolis to me.
Yeah.
It's weird.
After having been to
even though they're-
Vancouver in British Columbia, like Seattle seems like it does. It seems small.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
Portland
you're
seems
this
like
is
more
the
of a
real city.
Yeah, it does. But I like that about
Portland
it.
seems smaller than Seattle to me.
It does, but it seems like it's
does.
set up.
I'm sure. I don't
it's
know if
set
it
up
is or not,
different to
actually.
me. But I don't know. These are all just
The road
My
system in
mind.
Portland is awful, though. Like, I mean,
You mean
lots
those
of
streets
cities-
you
lots of
can't
cities
you
are,
can't
but-
take a left on Burnside? You mean?
Oh yeah,
Anywhere?
or you end up on a bridge that goes over everything that you need to get to.
Yeah.
and you're like, wait,
Zero and
is there
exits.
not an
You
exit?
literally
There
just-
is, yeah, but it's on that side of the river, and then you have to take a different bridge over
Right.
the river to
There's
get
a
back.
ferry that you need. It's like,
fuck off. Who designed this?
Why? Why did they tell me that at my hotel? Yeah, all right. Well, how about we talk about some spit stories? This is one of those things that I thought of when we were talking in our last episode.
Didn't we talk about spit stories last time too, or time before?
I don't-
Spitting in
Spit
food.
came up.
We did talk
We
about.
keep
Oh yeah,
talking
yeah.
about
This,
spit. Yeah.
this is why. This is what. That's what it was. But yeah, so not in food. We like bodily fluids on this show. It's
Yeah,
a
love
very fascinating thing. But no, I have a story that I wanted to share that I just thought of when we were talking about spit in food. But I'm
Please do
curious
go
about.
on.
I'm curious about your guys' most disgusting story with spit and or other things like that. But I'll set it up with my dumb story. Played AAU basketball. I think I was probably 12 or 13. It was the first team I was on. Didn't know any of these kids. They were all from other schools. That's how AAU often is. We're going to play in, for people in this area, it's called Tico Oaksdale, and it's very small. It's two cities that are very small that come together and make a little bit larger place. Anyway, we go down there and we're traveling and we're meeting each other for the first time, and for some reason we start spitting in a cup. And it just starts as an innocent thing, like a bunch.
As one does.
As one does.
And
There's
you
9
weren't
of us.
chewing. You just
No,
randomly
we're
spitting.
12. We're just spitting in a cup because probably somebody in somebody's life chewed and blah blah blah. But we'd stopped and gotten cheeseburgers and the things that you do that are fun in AAU, which is not basketball. It's just all the other things. We're driving down there. We just start spitting in the cup. No big deal. Play the game, get done, start driving home. We fill that cup with spit for some reason. We're just like, let's fill the cup. And there's nasty stuff in there. Somebody, I'm sure at some point was like snot rockets into the thing and whatever. And then
This is making my mouth water
Yeah,
in the back of where my tongue, like,
yeah,
not
mine
the
too.
Good way.
Exactly. I'm sorry to all of you guys if you're eating. This traumatized me, so that's what I wanted to share with all of you guys, so that you can deal with my trauma with me. But so what happened was the cup got, as you guys can imagine where this is going, I bet. But the cup got very full, and we were all impressed, and it's like, wow, this is exciting. What do we do with it?
Oh, I bet it smelled so good.
It was,
too.
yeah, the back tooth spit of chitrons that just got done playing basketball and having a pizza party.
None of you little bastards brush your teeth.
No, fuck no. It was a nasty time. So anywho, that eventually people were like, hey, let's pool the money that our parents gave to us that's left, and we'll give it to whoever drinks this. And I think there was a stipulation where they had to take a chunk of drink, like they had to. They didn't drink. They didn't chug the thing, but he did. The kid that
He
did
just
it
went for it.
Dude, he was impressing us. He was trying to impress us. He vomited profusely after that.
I can't understand
And
why.
a few of the other kids did not feel well either. And it scarred me for life.
I'm getting pukey tingles just listening, like picturing this.
Can you imagine? I mean, when I tell this story, this is what I get every
so
time.
viscous.
But there's it is undulation,
partially coagulated.
bubbles. But people are generally like, that's the most disgusting thing to do with a spit can ever. Or they'll have a story of their own where they're like, dude, we knew a kid like that and he drank it. So do you guys have a story? Has any other kid ever done anything like that in your life, or adult, which I would be even scary?
I had something kind of like that, but mine was purely an accident. It was a very unfortunate accident, and I was the one that drank the.
So this is why it's really affecting you.
So
yeah.
it was me and my buddy were at his mom had just bought this property. They were trying to fix it up, and they were growing vegetables, and they planted habanero peppers. And I'd never had a raw habanero pepper, And so me and my buddy, they were just getting ripe, Me and my buddy are like, okay, here's the deal, and. Also, I will say that there was no, they were still figuring out their well situation. So there was only, one jug of water that we drove out there with. That's all the water that we had that we could drink without getting Giardia or some shit.
Right. Okay.
So we really didn't think this through. But, so we're like, here's the deal. We'll each pick one, same size. We'll eat it. You have to chew it. It's no, crunch, crunch, swallow. You gotta chew it until it's, all pasty. And you eat the green part on the end, too.
Okay.
Which makes it worse. I don't know if you know.
I didn't know that.
I
Shit.
didn't know, but I know now.
Nah, learned something today.
So we did this, and we're just start suffering immediately. We're running around, flapping our arms, rolling around. They're like, ah! Water's coming out of every orifice in our face. And so I'm finally the whole deal was whoever takes a drink of something first loses, right? And so I'm just I'm trying to hold out.
Eating dirt.
I was
Does
a
that
bitch
count?
about spice. I've only gotten good with spice the last 3 years of my life. Before that, I was I could smell, I could smell green peppers, and I was like, oh, that seems spicy.
Green peppers.
But
Too spicy
so
for
I'm
me.
running past, and there's this there was a cup, like a solo cup, and everybody out there was just drinking water, as far as I knew. And I'm like, I'm out, dude. Like, and so I just grabbed this cup and knocked back a big swig of it, and it was his stepdad's spit cup.
Oh, the chew spit.
And and it was one of those things where because of the consistency, it just like went right down my throat, and I'm like realizing it mid swallow what I have done, and I was just like, ooh, and I'm dying from a habanero pepper.
That's like drinking a cup of blended banana
You're like,
slugs.
fucking take me now.
Yeah,
What'd you say, Jeff?
That's like drinking a cup of blended banana slugs.
Ooh.
Is that what that would be similar
Yep.
to? That's disgusting.
Yeah, it was, and it was like
But
I
spicy.
realized it, and I looked in the cup to confirm it, and there was still the rest with like little bits of chew, and I was like,
I know I've drank somebody's spit chew at some point, but I noticed it quickly, kind of thing, and I didn't take a big swig.
Look,
But, man.
I was a chewer for.
I was in an emergency situation, so I just went. I was like
You
expecting
doubled
water.
down on emergency though, like, oh no.
Oh, let me tell you, puking, which I did after you just chewed up a raw habanero pepper, just kind of repeats the whole process. Like, and then it's in your nose.
Oh,
That's
wow.
so terrible.
I
And
was,
plus, you get the butthole later.
yeah,
Sheesh,
and I
is it
did.
still-
I
yeah.
was sure that I was gonna die, and it harmed our friendship.
I trust you zero now. It will take decades for you to earn your trust back. So, did you drink of your own chew spit? You didn't give a shit.
I
as much, did
chewed
you?
for over 40 years of my life, and the only chew spit I ever drank was my own, and it was disgusting. But for a lot of years, I was a spitter in cups, yeah, and I think my dad finally knocked one over and threatened to kill me, and that's about all that took for the most part. But there were times when I got lazy, and one of those times, one of my sisters, we used to live together, and I was chewing, lazy night. For whatever goddamn reason, I decided it was a good idea to grab her favorite coffee cup and start spitting in her coffee cup. Not only did I
Ew.
violate her favorite coffee cup
Yeah.
and be a disgusting pig, I didn't even clean it out. I left it out like an asshole.
Damn, Jeff.
Yeah, so I mean,
There's some unspoken. Tell me about your sister.
well, she still loves me somehow.
That's good.
But
Well, you have several, so at least one out of 10% of your sisters.
But of course, all I remember was in the morning getting a note on the mirror that said, "If you spit in my coffee cup again, I'm going to pee on your toothbrush." Which I laughed.
Good. Points
And
for creativity.
So
I
I
just said like I'll kill you. It was something benign.
Right.
Right.
I replied to her and said, "If you
Generic.
pee on my toothbrush, I'll shit in your coffee pot." And that,
And escalated.
and that was pretty
Of
much
course,
it.
you
yeah.
escalated.
Both of you went to prison for 3 years.
But I felt
apiece.
appropriately bad and did not that again. But she should have known, because years before that, my dad had run his first marathon, and my sister and I had gone to watch him. And I remember coming home from the marathon, and we had this is at my dad's house. We had a neighbor that lived across the street. Guy's name was Glenn Kelly. He was this crotchety old retired fire chief. He just kind of hated everybody, mostly kids. He hated kids is what he hated. And dogs in particular. So he had a sign out in his front yard that said, "If your dog shits on my yard, I'll shoot your dog." So I, in turn, made a sign that said, "If you shoot my dog, I'll shit in your yard." And we just kind of kept him up facing each other for a while.
If you shit in my yard, I will shoot you.
If you shoot me, I will shoot the neighborhood. What? So what? This just made me think of this. You've smoked cigarettes a little bit in your life,
Yeah.
right? Okay, I have too. You started chewing, and you probably smoked a little bit in here and there or whatever.
Yeah.
What made you start chewing? Like, what person was impressive?
Oh, my father. And
It was
my
your.
uncle.
It was your dad.
Yeah, it was more for entertainment than anything.
Because you were young when you started, right?
Yeah, I was. I mean, I started getting chew when I was about 5 years old.
Wow.
And we'd either take it. Sometimes they would give it to us, and we'd throw up. And so you gotta understand, this is 70s. We didn't have a whole lot of entertainment like computers and cell phones and shit. You had to do shit to your kids to entertain yourself. I understand that. It's not child abuse. That's entertainment. Well, that's some.
Very big of you to look at it that way.
At some point, you stop throwing up, and then by 10 years old, I was buying my own cans of Kodiak, and I can remember my dad coming to one of my baseball practices, and I had a can stuck in my sock, and I was a pitcher, and every time I'd pitch, that thing would move, so I'm always messing with it and adjusting it.
Yeah,
Finally, after the practice, he's like, "Son, Yes, father. Do you have a can of chew? And I can remember, don't bust me, Dad. Dad, don't bust me. Come on, man. Don't bust. And he's like,
I gotta have it.
He's like, what? He's like, it's my fault.
Yeah. I learned it from watching you.
Yeah. And now instead we're both, neither one of us chew, and we're both addicted to toothpicks.
That's what this is going into.
Yeah.
As to how we got off that.
Excellent, not set up segue.
I didn't set this shit up at all. But was there like a famous person or a person in your life that you were like, smoking looks cool?
No.
Who made it look cool? Or?
No. Well,
did you smoke? I missed that answer.
Yeah. I smoked. I smoked for about a year in my early 20s, and then I quit. And then I smoked again for about 6 months later in my 20s, and then I quit again. Which those aren't long stints. So like,
it's still smoking. If you're buying pack every day or whatever it is, it's still.
When I vaped too for recently, like I was vaping for about 6 months, and then I quit that too, kind of on accident, which was funny.
But there was no inspiration from the world.
No, I guess maybe.
Wasn't a movie or something?
Maybe Lord of the Rings.
Right? Okay.
I don't even...
Because the first thing I smoked, was a long stem pipe.
Was it Hobbit leaf?
It was a tobacco pipe with, because it was like a meditative thing, I just like, I was like,
cool
I wonder
looking.
what that's like,
Yeah.
So I did it, and I was like, and in my young mind at the time, I'm like, well, I'm not actually inhaling it, so it's not hurting me. It's not technically smoking. It's like, no, nicotine's still getting in your bloodstream and dumb shit, like a lot.
Yeah, tons.
Well, I smoked a pipe for a little while in my early 20s. It was just I lived in Portland where it rains every day, so you had to find activities. So it was seriously like in a recliner, smoking a pipe, reading a book, and
it's nice.
I my
still
dad
do it
smoked a pipe.
once in a blue
It smells
moon because
delicious.
I love it.
Yeah, I love the smell of tobacco.
But that's
pipe.
what led me, because it's like a whole setup, like
you got to make love to it, so to speak.
Whereas if you just get a cigar or a cigarette, it's like, okay, we're going,
Yeah.
we're good.
Let's get
that's
the
inevitably
dopamine hit.
what led me into smoking the first time. Is I was just like, I'm just tired, like I want to smoke more, but the pipe is high maintenance, so I'm just going to start buying cigarettes.
And also Gandalf.
Yeah,
Right.
And cigars seem like such a good idea because they smell good, but about 30 seconds of that, and it's just like shoving
Awful.
your tongue in the dirtiest of buttholes. It's awful.
I still
On
love
fire.
cigars, start to finish.
I
can do
didn't
cigars.
mind
It's got to be a good one, but yeah.
I tried. I don't anymore. I have tried. I can't do it.
Well,
and I want to. I want to be cool. I just can't.
Next time we want to try to be cool, I'll get you a little short stogie cigar.
I got a bunch of Cubans. I got a bunch of
do.
Cubans, but I don't want to smoke anything except for marijuana because I quit smoking. Right.
Well, you can make a blunt, I guess.
Yeah. I don't want
A spliff.
Take a Cuban cigar and make a blunt
Did you guys
out
ever
of it.
do that? Did you ever smoke spliffs?
That's a cigarette and
Dude, I'm too
mixed
old.
with tobacco, right?
That wasn't
and weed.
part of
That's an old thing.
That wasn't part of my early.
That's like
You just
70s
mix-
thing,
You
yeah.
just mix
Tobacco and
weed
Yeah.
and roll it up in rolling paper.
I didn't like it. Although I love the first cigarette taste after you smoke weed.
Yeah.
It just tastes like a chicken nugget or something, like the just perfect chicken nugget. I know that sounds funny, but somebody out there's like, it does taste like a chicken
Somebody's
nugget.
like, yeah,
Fucking
I knew it.
with barbecue or hot mustard. I like the honey mustard, but prefer the hot. Something like that. But I think I started learning that I liked the look of smoking from the wife's here. From
Nice.
Die Hard, from Bruce Willis. I blame Bruce Willis.
It is Bruce Willis's fault.
And my dad. My dad smoked like a
Even if
motherfucker.
it isn't, it's his fault.
It is. He made it look so cool. I was like, fuck, I'll never be that cool unless I smoke. Kind of like how you'll never be a good never be a good songwriter unless you do heroin. That's what a couple of my friends tell me. They're like, dude, if you really want to write
it
great
worked for
songs,
me.
you got to do
If
heroin.
you look at the,
I'm like, I'll just do mediocre songs forever.
if you look at the science of it, somebody can conclude that.
My wife just brought us some yummy fucking apple cider.
Hell yeah.
The alcohol.
Is that what that
type.
is?
Yeah.
I thought that was just, from your office when you can't stop to pee.
It's just sweaty. It's sweaty. It's pee. I'm the pee boss, so that makes sense. I like to collect my own leavings.
Did you ever watch the Aviator, that movie with who was it, Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And by the end of the movie, he's like peeing in jars.
Yeah.
I guess that was a true
that's Howard
story,
Hughes.
right?
Yeah.
Howard
he
Hughes,
actually did that.
Yeah.
And Monique
I watched
and
it when I was young, so I had no idea. I'm like, why the fuck? What's going on?
Monique and I know a guy that actually collected his urine in jars under his bed. And he wasn't a famous, weird, eccentric guy. He was a weird, like, freedom fighter guy. He was an activist guy.
Weird.
I've met a lot of people like that in my life. I'm generally accompanying mental health. But
Yeah. Taking him to the
what's
Huggy Jacket
So
store.
what's the deal? Like, why?
Thanks, wife.
What was his motivation for doing that? Do you know?
Did we...
Art.
Will you come back? Do you remember... This is Monique.
Get in here, Monique.
This is script keeper in the house. Do you remember what I won't say his name, but why he collected urine under his bed. Do you remember what he said? Because it was kind of an odd thing, and we're just like, what? I don't think...
Well, he collected his urine for 2 reasons. One, he didn't want to clean the toilet. So he peed in coffee cans.
Coffee cans.
Yeah, it was in coffee
Airtight.
cans. Yes. And then the other part was he would wait until it fermented and there was floaters on top. And then he would dump it in the compost pile.
Oh.
Yeah. So he wait and but he would forget, and it was weeks on end with urine collected in coffee cans.
So it was a reduce, reuse, recycle kind of a thing.
He was lazy.
Wow. That just seems like a lot more
Thank
effort
you,
than
Ed.
just cleaning the goddamn toilet once in a while.
Get the fucking squeegee out. Goddamn.
Comet doesn't cost that much.
Seriously, and all you got to
shit.
do is just sprinkle it in and leave it for a few minutes.
Scratchy scratch.
I think they lived kind of out in the
If you
woods.
really want to get into it, you can get the pumice stone and get the little black line off. Takes about 30 seconds.
I wonder what he did with his poop, because poop is just as bad, isn't it? Come on.
Yeah,
So
his
did
toilet.
he-
Even if you
It's
don't
your
do
friend,
anything,
I know.
I'm looking at you like, what did he do with his poop, Jeff?
Yeah, that's
Shaiden, what did he
I
do
don't
with his
accept
poop?
that excuse because you can, if you don't do anything in your toilet, it will grow mold anyway. It's gonna get dirty.
Right.
So
He's just lazy. He
his
really
toilet was full of mold while he was saying, "I just don't want to clean the toilet." It's like, well, you should anyway.
Can you imagine being the wife or a significant other of the person that's just like, I'm going to piss in this jar?
I wouldn't
next
expect
to the
that there
bed.
was a significant.
Yeah, it
He had
depends
one.
on if
He
he
had
was.
one.
I don't
doing
think
that
anybody's
before.
significant in your life if you're pissing in cans and leaving it underneath your
That's
bed.
fair. I think that's a fair.
Was he
We
doing
hand me
that
one of those bottles?
before
We'll
or
drink one of
after
those.
the contractual
actually
agreement
drink
was
these.
reached?
Yeah, each one of us gets one.
Hey,
What'd you
Zach,
say? I missed what you said.
Was he doing that before or after the contractual agreement with his spouse was reached?
I think it was after, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
It's like,
Again-
well, I'll let myself go a little.
We're going to qualify this as a 2.7?
Yuck.
I mean, maybe.
You know,
These were hippies, though.
who
And the
knows what
hippies
he's doing in his bedroom with
have
all those
different rules.
jars of piss, all those piss cans.
Ooh, fuck yeah. This looks good.
He's like, I just don't want to spend all that money on lotion, so I use.
Is everybody hearing the bubbles?
Is this the most disgusting episode that
Actually,
we've
we're
done
talking
so
about
far?
pee, and it sounds like
I just took a leak in
Can
my
you imagine
pants.
what it's going to be like when we inevitably do a episode where we get inebriated? Because we're already ridiculous when we're sober.
It should be pretty stupid.
Oh, I
It'll be
get
pretty dumb.
way
Cheers.
smarter when
Cheers,
I'm
guys.
drunk.
Cheers. Just a ride,
I'll fucking tell
motherfucker.
you all about it,
Hope
too.
you guys got some cold beverage or
Yes,
something.
cheers to you.
Ooh,
Radio silence.
that's very
It
good.
is fantastic. Everybody hear the swallows?
Monique loves. She brought us these, but she loves the mouth noises.
Yeah.
Hates them.
Just
Hates.
for when Monique listens.
Oh no, I want to edit it out. Now I got to find that. Write that down. 20 minutes and 2 seconds. No.
We're not editing out shit.
Nothing's going.
Uncut, pure, raw-handed goodness.
We're raw dogging the podcast edits. So what do you say we talk about our reasonablest party? We talked last episode.
Yeah, we got approximately nothing done.
We got nothing done. I don't know what our platform is. We don't.
Well, we
like
want
war.
reasonable. We want reasonable in the world.
We're trying to. I think it's like an exercise of trying to find out what would be a good political party that people like us would support.
So let's treat it like a campaign, right? Like
Okay.
so let's pitch ourselves a question like about an issue and be like, okay, what is the reasonablest party stance on this issue?
Okay. So here's a softball one.
Okay,
Drugs.
love them.
I love them too.
Yeah.
I think they should be
I
free,
understand.
and we'll
I think
throw
we
them
should
off the
force
pedestal.
drugs upon people that don't want them.
Whoever we can get to run for president, he's just throwing drugs into the crowd.
I
He's not
support-
kissing babies. He's just giving them
Support
drugs.
the aerial
Wasn't that also
spraying
an
of birth
idiocracy?
control and Prozac.
Just aerial sprays. Everybody's high, or you get the fuck out of the country.
They've got like t-shirt cannons from ball games, but they're just shooting needles at people. Yeah, heroin. Thank you.
Have you been down to the Walmart off Havana lately?
They got the t-shirt guns and everything.
That was we've already established I shop at the sketchiest version of anything I can find.
Right.
That was my Walmart when I was working at Thrifty. I went there all the time.
So drugs. I know
Well-
this is going to be illegal or not legal.
Well, how
question,
legal?
isn't it?
I don't think it's legal or illegal. I think we're all kind of reasonable at this point. We're
Well,
in the reasonable party.
okay. Well, you know how I
want.
feel.
How about this? I'm setting the bar at. I think there should be vending machines with heroin in it at schools for free. No, okay.
All right.
I would put.
Let's
drugs-
unpack that.
I would put drugs in vending machines. Marijuana. You could buy marijuana in a vending machine.
So
We'll start with
who supplies the vending machines in that scenario?
that. Whatever private company owns the marijuana or the vending machine and contracts with the marijuana retailer.
So is there any oversight? So my whole thing is, this is where I stand on the drug things hypothetically, is I think that, demonizing them the way that we do currently is very counterproductive. I think that there's evidence to support that, taking away some of the stigma and some of the taboo would solve a lot of the inherent problems that we have with drug use as far as the negative sides of it. But there's also the issue of quality control, so like if it becomes a situation where private companies can supply vending machines, but then, well, if you cut some corners and these shittier quality or put more dangerous ingredients or compounds into it just to save some cost and undercut the other guy, then you're getting right back into the same problem that we have. So
but it's the same market as Frito-Lay, where it's like Frito-Lay doesn't poison its customers because it doesn't want to get sued and it doesn't want its customers to die.
Well, Frito-Lay doesn't make you hallucinate either.
But it doesn't want. But it also doesn't want to go out of business. So like the fundamental is the business thing. Like if people get a reputation of being the kind of marijuana that cuts corners, people won't buy it, and so it'll sit in the vending machine, and then people will take it out of the vending machine, throw it away, and put in a new company.
So
that's
how about
hopefully
maybe
what will happen.
You know this. So like, I've read this somewhere, and I couldn't cite where, and I don't know if it was true, but on a cursory examination, I read that heroin in particular, if it is produced in such a way that it's pure and the dosage is regulated, it's actually quite safe.
Okay.
For you. And so I'm like, okay, but so then the issue there is just shitty heroin is what's causing people to have gnarly reactions and overdose or no quantity control, So like, I don't know, but at the end of the day, I'm a big fan of personal agency. I think that's a really reasonable stance.
That's what I'm saying.
It kind of should be up to you.
If you want to ruin your life,
alcohol is a dangerous drug. And people abuse it, and they do some really, really shitty things that they might not have done if they weren't under the influence of alcohol. Right. But I still love drinking alcohol, and I still think people should be allowed to do that if they want to.
Yeah. And I'm being hyperbolic when I say I want it on the streets, and it's the extreme freedom would be the vending machine thing. But I like the way bars do it now. I don't like the way that the alcohol board exists. I don't think that they do much. I think that it's kind of part of the stigma of not agency, kind of where the government needs to be your daddy and tell you what to do or whatever. So I like the way marijuana is sold now. I think it could be done better for the businesses involved.
They do the vending machine thing with marijuana.
Yeah.
There was one when I was visiting my parents in Oregon last week. There's a shop, and like you have to jump through a couple. It's not as simple as just anybody can walk in and put a 20 in there.
But there's some control there for age.
But there's some control for age and for everything. There's cameras and shit everywhere, so it's like really highly secure. But it's nobody's there. It's just a small room in like a strip mall situation. You just walk in there and there's two vending machines against one wall.
Brad, and it probably makes as much as a lot of brick and mortar stores.
They don't have to pay bud tenders.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. So that's kind of where it is. It's like, as the reasonablest party, I feel like we would legalize drugs, but you tell me what you think, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm interested in Jeff's opinion because you've dealt with
a lot of this.
So
shit,
I got to watch drugs become legal, essentially, in the state.
All of them now in Washington,
So currently in this state, you can do any and every drug that you want to your heart's little desire.
When did that happen?
As far as...
Just recently.
That's what I thought.
It's been about a year and a half ago.
Really?
And I even talked to the gal that was involved in the case that made it over. The Ninth Circuit Court overturned it, but now I can't even remember her name.
So is it just distribution that's still a criminal act then? Or?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But...
Do you guys want to buy 6 pounds of crack? Sorry. Go ahead.
No, because that's illegal. No, because that's illegal.
Well said.
So all the Oxenfree on drugs,
full spectrum,
didn't suddenly make people reasonable and rational when they use them, and then the crimes associated with them go down. When you have shithead children, if you say, I'm just not going to parent you anymore and see how it turns out, it's never going to turn out good, right? Okay, so you have a society, the local society here, you can use drugs to your own little heart's desire. You go out and take a walk, people shooting up heroin all over the curbsides.
But that's not legalization, though.
But now you've got massive amounts of fentanyl coming in through the border. That's where it's coming. I don't give a shit what your political opinions are. It's where it's
for
coming
sure.
from.
That's true. Yeah, from what I can
And
tell, that
now the
seems right.
fentanyl is going, and as far as quality control, this is kind of where I agree with you, where if this is what we're going to be, there does need to be some sort of entity for quality control, because now you're getting fentanyl put in cocaine and heroin and all the club drugs. Fentanyl is getting used to cut it. It will give you the same sensation, but it's going to kill more people.
And that's why you want to put it in the market and take it out of the black
so
market.
for that, I agree with. But, and I'm all for a reasonable, rational society, if they are, or a reasonable, rational person. I'm okay with a couple of, whatever. You got kids, you got good jobs, you got a weekend where you can get rid of the kids for a weekend. You want to go do an 8-ball of cocaine and drink to your little heart's desire and make porn on the... Great. As long as you go back and pick up your kids and you're responsible, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
The problem is that it requires a reasonable, rational society or reasonable, rational people to do that. And if you continue to do that more and more, the less reasonable, rational you're going to get, because drugs do affect your mind and how you act, and there are addictive properties, and the addiction does shitty things to people to the point where they aren't being responsible, they aren't taking care of those things, to where they do ultimately. That's why drugs and crimes go hand in hand, and it's those quality of life crimes, which are the burglaries, the thefts, the identity thefts, and now you're getting into violent crimes. So there isn't an answer necessarily. If we're going to have drugs, there does need to be quality control. Is it the government that does that? I guess the government that we're talking of, not the current administration or the current two parties, but this new party. We would have to be very reasonable and rational about it.
Well, I think
listen to
same as I tend to think about a lot of issues. I think just smaller forms of governance, not necessarily government in its current form, but smaller forms of regulatory bodies that aren't able to be influenced by the things that they're regulating.
Right.
I mean, straight up, if I had a good weekend and I could go do an 8-ball of coke now, because I'm not a cop, I still remember how fun it was when I was a kid. If I knew I could get some good, clean, pure coke and probably fine, I'd be doing it. But I'm not going to go find a drug dealer and do it. Hell no.
That was going to be my point. Like, decriminalizing and legalization.
So I agree with that.
Decriminalizing doesn't solve the problem. So when we look at it like, well, we just gave them drugs and everything's not better. It's like, well, yeah, because they're still buying it from drug dealers. That's still, they can't go to a store and tell what's in it.
I think the only thing you could say about that is it does demystify it, so that it takes a little bit of the allure away from somebody who maybe otherwise would have never tried it if it wasn't a taboo thing.
Sure.
And then who runs it? Is it federal level government or is it local level?
It should never be federal.
I don't want it to be government.
I don't think it should be any government. Yeah.
So how do we make what we want to have happen in the free market?
Well, I think it's real simple. I mean, the way that they're doing it now for marijuana is that, I mean, you don't need the government really to do this. If people in the industry decide, well, we're going to card and you can't have it if you're under 21, you wait in line, you go look, and you can see what's in it. It has the ingredients or whatever. It has the THC, and it has, what kind of sativa, indica. That should be done for cocaine. That should be done for heroin. Why not?
And here's
black
the
market.
Thing.
The black market just gives people a chance to die. The market itself, it's like, well, they're going to do it, so why not let it? So it's going to be.
Well, it's interesting though, because the more stipulations you put on a thing, the more you encourage a recurrence of the black market for that thing. Right. So it's like,
and here's I will agree.
The moment you say 21, that means that 17 through 20-year-olds are going to have a hell of a black market,
right? Because it'd be like you could say, oh well, if you have a criminal record of a certain sort, maybe not all, but like within the last however many years, you're not allowed to go buy the heroin from the vending machine. But then you just create a new black market.
It's like shoulder tapping for heroin though, instead of alcohol.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah.
Well, it's trusting people to make their own rational, self-interest based decisions, and we know that people don't all the time.
Well, and here's the thing that I'm going to...
Government and black markets don't make the problem better. They make it worse.
Here's the thing I'm going to stick to when it comes to drugs in general, particularly when you start talking about heroin and meth. You got to include them all. Mescaline, whatever it is. Okay, those are highly more addictive just because it's more governed.
I don't want to do mescaline more than once a month.
Or easier access to get doesn't mean that it's less addictive, and it's not going to cause a lot of the same problems because that come with those drugs.
Right.
Period.
Yeah, but the theft and stuff like that, a lot of that has to do with access. It will change because, again, you're not going to the black market to buy things. If you're going to the store to buy things, first of all, prices will come down because there'll be companies that compete against each other to be the best heroin provider. And so the prices are a part of why people steal. The addiction to the drug is the other reason and stuff. I don't know if that's...
Well, let's pretend that most homeless people didn't actually get free food from the government, and the stuff that they stole from the store was actually food. The crime still exists to get what you want.
Sure, I'm not saying that. The problem is that government and black markets don't do what they claim that they can do, and they cause more harm than good. I don't have solutions for things, but I know that the major problem is when you have your arm cut off, you don't start hacking away at the arm that's cut off, and that's kind of what government and black markets do.
It's a sort of a logical fallacy in my opinion too, because you start falling into these traps of how do we make it utopian? There's no scenario in which crime goes away. That's not the goal. It can't be the goal because it's impossible. It's a pipe dream, and if you reach for that too hard, you try to legislate your way to utopia, you just created a dystopia, which we deal with and have dealt with all throughout history, and I would argue are currently dealing with in a lot of places in the world right now.
That looks like it to me.
Well, so, but the idea is, can we look at what has worked and what hasn't, and improve upon it moving forward, and see how that goes. So, like, I think making it regulated within reason, just as far as like, we're not putting out PCP that you take a one dose of and you die from an overdose. You know, like you gotta, like, there has to be some sort of quality control in my opinion.
Absolutely.
But not regulate it or make it illegal or taboo to the point where there's an allure or it's prohibitive or it encourages a black market. So the line has to be somewhere between those two, and I think we're too far the other direction currently.
Well, the intelligence of a market is the people. Like, that's why I like markets, is because it's really the only kind of democracy that you can actually participate in, because you use your dollars to decide, I don't like this or I do like this. And that's what protects us from these things, that these predatory capitalists that want to come in and make money. That's their goal, right? Is to make money. Like me. I'm a filthy capitalist. But they want to come in and make money, and the antidote to their greed, whatever, is their fear of not being able to make that money. And so, I mean, that's literally what protects us from all of the dangers of the people that are wicked. Is like, you can make a quick fraudulent dollar, and there's unfortunately will always probably be there'll always be that. But if you were trying to make a lot of money, you can't fuck people over in any field, unless you have government to buy.
You just arrange it to where you fuck them over just within their level of tolerance.
But people aren't stupid. Like the masses will figure that out, and they will punish that company.
But if they like the thing enough to put up with it, then they won't punish that company.
I don't know what your example is, but I bet there is one probably right on the surface. Yeah.
So when it comes to alcohol, so alcohol is legal, right? We have people that can handle it, and we have people in our society that cannot. I don't know what the percentage of. I've never seen any numbers of percentage of drinkers versus people who are actually alcoholics, and depending on who you are, that definition of alcoholic changes for sure. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I have a pretty firm, good. I think I have a really adequate. If you want it, just as a quick aside, I think, because I had this conversation with a friend of mine just recently. I think you become, and this applies to other things other than alcohol, but to use an analogy, when you stop being the rider and start being the horse, then you have a problem. If the thing that you're using as a vehicle, then it starts using you as a vehicle, that's the line where you have a problem. That's different. Right. So I agree with what you're saying, but that's different for most people. Like, that line is not in the same place for a lot of people. So it's really a challenge of knowing yourself well enough to know where that line is, or at least recognizing it when you've passed it and you're like, no, I can't be the horse. I have to be the one in the saddle, because the vehicle doesn't care about its well-being. The rider does.
I don't think making it legal makes it any more. It's going to diminish social issues as far as addiction and apathy, and then crimes that are associated. I mean, even people think, well, alcohol is legal, and there's alcoholics, but it's not really associated in crime. No, it is. It's associated in basically every crime. Very rare. I didn't always deal with somebody on heroin, but I always dealt with somebody who was drunk.
Yeah.
So
anything that removes your inhibitions or alters your perception of reality is a factor in your behavior, for sure. I don't think there's any way to reasonably argue against that. So I agree with you.
So, and again, to me, it comes down to, defining what is reasonable, or expecting people to be reasonable in order for these things to happen. I just don't think it's possible to have an actual reasonable society. I just want one. I just don't think it's possible.
Sure.
Well, you're out of the reasonablest party.
Yeah, you've already given up on the core tenets of all of
I'm
this.
just trying to. I'm trying. I can still try to develop one.
Well, let's try and figure out where we landed.
I mean,
what does the reasonablest party? Where do we land on drugs? Are we legalizing drugs? Now it's questionable. Do we
So I have
legalize them all?
another
Do we
question
legalize
before we bring down the guillotine on that issue. What are your guys' thoughts on natural drugs versus synthetic drugs? Is there enough of a difference there that they should be treated differently?
drugs are drugs or drugs or drugs or drugs. Look, what's the first thing they did with marijuana? They was all about it's God's plant and natural blah 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 blah. First thing they do is start breaking it down, making oils and shit with it, making
been doing
it so much more highly concentrated.
The dabs are pretty. It's like a
But you still can't
marijuana
overdose
overdose.
And I don't necessarily care, I guess, but say what your intent is. Don't fucking lie.
Get as high
Yeah.
as fucking possible on marijuana.
Fair
I think
enough.
is
Yeah.
the goal there.
And again,
yeah,
I get
which
it.
is what potheads did for their whole time being potheads. They're like, I have a gas mask on. We're doing knife hits.
Right.
You know, so
they just had the wherewithal and the resources to do it to the next level. But
It's science.
I think my question still remains, because no matter you can smoke the dopest concentrate to your heart's content for a week straight, and you still won't overdose and die.
Yeah.
It's probably not good for you on some level, because
Right.
excess in anything is not good for you. But you know, it's not. In my mind, it doesn't
in a different
exist in the
league
same
then.
category. Like you know, you have weed and mushrooms and that kind of shit, and then you have PCP and heroin, and it's like, well,
not in,
they're not in the same
and they're
club
in weird,
in my mind.
weird
you know?
schedules too, as far as the government. I mean,
Yeah.
marijuana is scheduled as zero medical benefit.
Heroin still comes from a plant. Why is that?
Yeah, but
it's
I mean,
manipulated quite a
everything
bit.
comes from, but you know, it's not a plant by the time you use it. It's it's synthetic. That's what I mean. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, I mean everything's
like
natural.
meth.
Yeah.
Meth comes from
But there's no meth
natural
cream.
things if you go back far enough in the production process. But it's all chemicals, baby.
Yeah,
Like,
has been changed quite a bit.
yeah.
Yeah. What do you think? Do we
If
legalize?
people are going to do
we legalize drugs?
people are going to do drugs. I think about the only deterrent that there is from getting started in drugs is the fear of shame and punishment. I think is about the only thing that works.
Yeah, but
However,
go ahead.
if that's what the people wanted and they wanted to be able to do drugs, I would agree with at least trying to make the drugs safer than they are today.
Okay.
Therefore, try to at least abolish the black market.
So heroin light. So
Yes.
you're saying, like, let's
Essentially,
make that shit. I want my
Heroin medium,
heroin
at
light,
least.
medium,
There's a market for
Yeah.
that. I can see the commercials already.
crack dry, crack.
Got like an ice bucket with syringes sticking out of it at a picnic after church on Sunday.
Do you have a light? I'm not really into a full on.
There's too many calories in regular heroin. I'm on Atkins. I can't do that.
I would like to see what society would do with people that are addicted to drugs after a decade or two of a legalized system. Because right now everything is dealt with where it's stigmatized, and it's, you basically, if you were alive during Nancy Reagan's fucking just say no time period, you look at some people that choose to do drugs like you chose to be a werewolf. Why? That kind of thing. And honestly, with a lot of drugs,
awesome.
it is like that. But if we legalized it and we turned it into instead of criminal actions where we have police and we have prison people dealing with addiction and dealing with this stuff, it'd be interesting after a few decades of.
Is it still going to be my responsibility to then turn around and have to pay for and fix people that decided to break themselves?
Well, I don't know.
Or is it their responsibility?
I think there's this kind of shared responsibility.
Yeah. There's probably a line somewhere between there. I lean way harder towards their responsibility.
Me too.
Than collective responsibility.
But I like a society
but I also,
that's trying to
I do
fix
like I don't, people like to
problems.
throw around socialization as a dirty word because socialism has been not very successful
Right.
at all,
Right.
throughout history. But that's just because, in my opinion, that's because you try to take the whole thing. You're going from one extreme to the other. But if you implement, I think it behooves us as members of the same biological race, like the same. We're all human beings, and we're all sharing this space. Especially in a society, especially in a micro society, we should give a shit about each other to the point where we're willing to give a little bit for the collective good.
Absolutely.
I am all for the
I agree with
theory
that.
of I'm all for the theory of leave me the fuck alone, but if my neighbor has a problem, I need to go help him. I'm going to get off my ass and go.
So,
home.
but what about if
everybody was that
your
way,
neighbor
it'd be
doesn't
great.
have a problem, but he could have a problem someday, and that costs you a little bit of money today?
Again, I guess it would collectively help. I agree with that, but it's it's
Slippery slope.
subject to what it is,
Right. True. Agreed.
I like the idea of people helping each other voluntarily.
Voluntarily, yeah, that's the big key.
All of my problems with everything is that government is this monopoly of force, and that it creates immorality everywhere it goes, because you can't filter your good vibes through an immoral thing and get your good vibes back or amplify your good vibes. You just get shit with good vibe intentions.
Well,
And
we
that's-
just need to. We just
like the career I did.
yeah, you went
shit.
into it with really good intentions,
No shit.
and it shit on you.
And I had fun.
Yeah.
It was a really cool perspective of life, but I didn't get to accomplish exactly what I thought I was going to.
Well, you didn't save the world, but you did. You saved a lot of people.
Which is why I'm here now.
Right.
Well, we just
Now we
need
gotta do
to.
this.
We just need to incentivize helping your neighbor of your own volition with something like a social credit score.
That's all we need. It's just some social credit scores and a big organization with guns.
Shane and I both got
the
kicked off
real
this
problem
show.
is the bourgeoisie.
Could be.
So I don't know. Where do we land on drugs? I think
Vending machines.
more legal,
schools.
more legal and less demonized than they are now, but not to the
More
point.
self-responsibility that comes with it, though.
Yes.
How about
Yeah.
no black market at all? Whatever we do, we have to kind of like decide what can't be there. All
How do you
concede
accomplish
to
no
government.
black market though?
Well, we make it so that there's actual competition and people listen to what the consumers want. If the consumers are saying that we want 12-year-olds to smoke crack, then fuck
I guess
them.
that's fair.
But-
if you make the market product more appealing than the black market product,
Yeah.
that's what determines, right?
Fuck
'Cause
yeah,
that's
that's
how
why-
it's been. That's how it's been with weed in Washington.
Sure.
I used to go buy weed from bro in the trailer park who was my buddy's stepdad, and he's like, you got to stay for an hour and smoke with me, so it
Yeah.
doesn't look suspicious,
Yeah.
But then as soon as I could get it in the store, I went to see buddy in the trailer park a few more times for the sake of nostalgia. But then I was like, I don't want seeds and stems anymore. I want variety, and I just can walk. It's right by my house.
I don't want to smoke a percentage of what I bought from Buddy with Buddy.
I'll even pay
and
more
drive
just
home.
because it's convenient and cool, and there's
Yeah.
variety, and there's cute girls that work behind the counter and make me feel like I'm cool for smoking
Right.
weed.
And it's cheaper. I bought an ounce of weed yesterday for $30. And it gets me as high as most of the weeds I
That's
bought.
crazy.
$30
That's
for an ounce of
fucking
weed.
crazy.
And these
Good luck,
farms,
black
It used to be like
market.
$100.
Good
and
luck,
that was
black
cheap,
market. Yeah.
You know?
these
it's
local
280
farms
in
that
the-
are growing, if they don't contract everything out, if they so desire, it would be illegal. But they sure have lots and lots of extra pounds that they could package up and very easily go across state lines and make a shit.
Oh, in
load of
Idaho,
money.
fuck yeah.
So now they basically get to be legalized growers for international.
All these other governments need to get their
International
shit
drug
together.
deals.
Washington State has set a precedence, even though I disagree with a lot of Washington State's ideas on what they should be doing with government. And actually marijuana laws in Washington they're progressive now, but they're going to end up being very conservative in the future, because when people realize like this isn't plutonium that we're dealing with, it's just a fucking plant that inebriates to a point where people never die and never really lose their minds in any kind of like alcohol. We're going to lose our minds if we keep drinking this for the rest of the day. I'm going to smoke weed the rest of the day, and I'll be the same. So blah blah blah. Fucking,
Yeah.
I don't know my point.
Well,
is.
so another thing maybe we should, when we do these segments, and then I'll let it go because I could explore this shit all day and not get bored probably, but we should look at, because I feel like where a lot of this shit breaks down is where you're looking at an issue in isolation and trying to, so like we're discussing drugs, right? But what about all the things that are connected to the legalization or otherwise of drugs? Like, so say, for example,
Meaning
if we take
associated
away
crimes.
Sure, yeah, that would be an example. Or another example related to what you were saying is if we take away some of the black market potential for certain drugs, which translates directly to the profitability of, say, a cartel in Mexico.
Yeah.
And we also
It's
happen
a
to have
win-win.
an open border basically in the south of our country. What happens when we do that? Because that's going to either create a power vacuum or a war, as far as I'm concerned. And so like it's easy to be like, oh well, we should decriminalize drugs to a certain degree, but what does that like? My point is, what other dominoes is that tipping over, and how do
the cartels?
we
We don't give a fuck if they have power. We want them to not have power. I think
Sure.
I'm sure they do,
but
positive
they have
things
power
for community
anyway.
Right. But
so
it's through money.
Yeah.
The money is the power. They can only push people around because they can hire goons to push people around. If you can't hire as many goons, you push less people around. If we legalize drugs, we end cartels, except for the sexploitation
really,
and child trafficking and other things like that.
We're not going to be growing our own heroin here. We're still going to be getting it.
But you're not going to buy it from the cartel. Maybe the cartel will go legit and found a company and hire people and have accountants and stuff. But that's a different.
If they haven't already,
right? Well, I'm sure they have. Yeah, the cartel definitely has QuickBooks Pro. I'm sure. But what I mean is, we get rid of the black market. We get rid of the black market players, and the cartel is the biggest player in the black market. They would lose their power. Their customers would go elsewhere.
But I don't know if it's any better to give the government the power either. So.
They're the same thing to me.
It's just a different cartel.
But the different cartel. Well, no, because we're going to decentralize power with legalizing it. So how many cartels run heroin? If it's 10, that's whatever, probably a lot. Maybe it's 100. I don't know. But as soon as we legalize heroin, all the players that are in the medical industry, all the players that are in inebriation companies like Budweiser and shit, they're going to look at that and be like, all right, are we going to sell heroin? And then they're going to find out, all right, well, how do we do better than the cartels at selling heroin? What do people want? They want not fentanyl in their shit. Done. We can do that. They want it to be pure. Done. We can do that. They want it to taste like cookies and cream. Budweiser presents cookies and cream meth-flavored meth juice. And that would happen. And that's better than letting the cartels and the governments fight out what morally is correct.
That means they would bring Coke back into Coca-Cola. That would be phenomenal.
It would be.
I don't think
and
that's
you get
off
to decide
the table
whether or not you want to do
now.
that.
Anyway, I was just reading something about that the other
And not
day.
Washington State.
And by the way,
that's
that's why you're talking about like meth soda. The first time I did meth was actually an accident, and I had
same.
So there I was. I was
eating
in
a cheeseburger.
8th grade, and this girl had her name was Angela. She had an orange slice, diet orange slice in her locker, and I thought I'd be funny guy because 8th grade flirting. I was gonna chug her soda down, and I did. Unfortunately, she had just sprinkled a dime bag of methamphetamine into that and was planning on sipping on that all morning.
Wow.
And that was my first
And
experience.
Jeff's like,
with
we
meth.
gotta run like lions and tigers and bears.
Put me in, coach.
Oddly enough,
Tuesday.
yeah,
There's
first
no
period
game.
was PE, and we had this. We had to
Jeff's
run a
going into
mile.
cardiac arrest.
Yeah. We had to run a mile, and I usually would walk the thing. I ran it, and I think it was like
4:51,
under like 6 minutes or something. I mean, I was
Still holds the record to this day.
40 pounds then, but
If only they knew he cheated.
Yeah.
But he didn't think to cheat. He just did.
They don't drug test in 8th grade.
No, they sure don't.
He was doping.
He was so doped. He was legitly doped. All right. I think we should put drugs in schools for free. And you guys think
we should force them upon people?
We should give
we should
kids-
actually
we do
use
give kids drugs.
the children to maybe
test the drugs?
test
Field
the
test
drugs.
them? Yeah.
Make sure
Field
see
test
how
drugs.
pure they are.
Yeah, they're
Agreed.
durable.
Yeah.
It's like, how is this? How
It
good
won't
is this
affect them
film?
at all. They'll be okay. That'd be great.
All right. I feel like we didn't really solve our platform for reasonableness, but how about
It's gonna take
us
a while.
three, we're not look. The shit that's going on in government now, us three, we're not going to solve.
No,
government.
you're right.
But it sure is fun to.
Well,
mess with.
let's do the opposite. Like, what would we make marijuana illegal?
No.
Would you make marijuana illegal?
No.
In any facet?
No.
Okay. So you
No, I think it should be federally legal.
Would you make alcohol
And it-
legal? I'm just doing the softballs right now.
Yeah.
You would make alcohol legal?
Yes.
Illegal?
Oh, legal.
You keep
Yes,
it legal.
I like to drink.
Would you make it better than it is now?
You
or
know,
would
I want it legal because if I want the option to drink, I want it.
Right. Well, that's why I want heroin legal.
selfishly,
'Cause
I
sometimes I want to write a better song than what I can create
Yeah.
with just weed.
Right.
I don't know. What about heroin? Do we legalize heroin?
For the principles of it being safer, yes. For the reality of what heroin's going to do to somebody, more likely than not anyway, I would say no. But I believe in freedoms too. So as long
I
as
think the market
as
could-
you're responsible for the end result of that,
Well, think about the businesses that
and not me, then yes, absolutely. Make
if
it
we
legal.
legalize heroin, think about the businesses that could pop up in the heroin industry that are about
it's all going to be rehab
recovering
stuff.
and
Yeah,
a lot of
Right.
it, absolutely.
And right now, and again, the state pretty much has the has control of that too. I mean, they got to control the methadone programs, and methadone does help people.
I just don't think the government's the answer.
But they don't get people off of methadone.
Yeah.
It's just another addiction. I mean, so to speak.
It really is. Yeah.
So I can't give you a solid yes or no on heroin, and here's why. I think that as a fan of nuance, things have to be done in an appropriate order, and heroin would be. So my answer to heroin would be,
let's see how the other ones go.
Yeah, but not yet.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's because I can't just saying, okay, drugs, yes or no. I don't know. Depends on which drug and why and how much and in what manner. So like there's other things. So my point is, heroin being, just legalized overnight. It's fine. Go ahead, produce it, do it, sell it. It's all good. However you want to do it, let the market decide. I think in time that would shake out, but if you just did that without having any consideration for the other things that affect how people interact with heroin, without taking care of some of that shit first, then you're creating more problems than solutions in the short term. And I think we're better than that. I think we could do a better job than that. I guess is what I'm saying.
But what we're saying is keep the black market though.
Well, so let's take right now. The way the climate is in the United States right now, inflation is huge. People's money is worth less than it's ever been, and the poverty directly correlates to how people interact with addictive substances. There's a lot of data to support that, right? So I think that working on things that improve our economic state before we decide to just go ahead and say, yeah, heroin's free and clear and good and go for it, I think that would be a way more prudent thing to. That would be a more prudent way to do it, because I think that's the problem that I have with, just inciting pure anarchy immediately all across the board. It's like, yeah, that's to me, that's a dude coming in with the club and going, don't like this computer, bang, and like, we do it better. And it's like, well, but you could have just pulled out the parts that were working and reconfigured them and made innovate rather than just burn it all to the ground and start over without any consideration for the variables along the way.
I'll say this in defense of anarchy. Anarchy isn't like a political thought. It's everyday life.
No, yeah.
Everything is anarchy. So really government is this weird thing that we're all kind of like, it's unnatural that we've just done for thousands of years because it's really hard to put Pandora back in her little box. No, I don't have any more than that. I don't got anything to say.
I'm not throwing too much shade on anarchism as especially in its day-to-day form. Anarchy has utility, but I'm just saying I was using that as an example of if you can take anything too far, and that's the too far.
There's no reason.
Anarchy,
real quick,
I have a question.
There's no reason to have a black market. That's all. What you're doing is you're saying, but we'll just keep the black market going for longer. And that to me is where it's like, but the black market is where all of the unregulated and corrupt things can really flourish.
We don't disagree, except that my stance is better the devil you know for now rather than creating more chaos along the way to where you're trying to get to.
Okay.
That's where I'm sitting on it. So
fair enough. What were you going to say? Sorry, Jeffy.
Let's see if I can remember what my thought was.
Oh, shit.
It's gone. Like your sideburns.
Yeah, I took those bad boys off. Whoops, that was a mistake.
It happens. I've been there.
No, so like if we legalize drugs, are we really just setting up another market to just totally explode for rehab then? I mean, we're just this other huge step.
You think a lot of people are just deterred from doing drugs just because
drugs are cheap and easier to get with less risk doesn't make the people that are going to do them less apt to get addicted to higher and higher amounts and still causing the same chain reactions that go along with those drugs. That's a reality.
This will remove all of the having to hide your addiction.
I don't give a shit.
But that's all the black market. All the black market does is create other crimes. It creates a stigma that makes it harder to help people. And I mean, you're in a world where you're basically a criminal. Looked at in the same way as somebody that's breaking into people's homes.
I understand about the feelings part, but it doesn't change the addictive properties part of it.
The addictant doesn't matter. People who are addicted to things are addicted to things, whether it's legal or illegal. They're going to abuse alcohol, whether it's illegal or legal. And that's we see that constantly.
Well,
you don't see a big swing in countries like Portugal that have had it legalized for decades. You don't see a big swing in South American countries that have legalized it. It's kind of a fantasy that people in this country that want to keep it illegal continually say, is that the crimes will continually to be terrible. They're not.
There aren't less marijuana users in our state now because marijuana is legal. There's definitely more. They're not going to be less heroin users or meth users or whatever said drug is because it's legal now.
What are you talking about? Are you talking about 1 year after it's legalized or 20 years after it's legalized?
I would say
Do you have the data?
I would say within 1 year.
Okay, so that doesn't mean that much. Like, as an economist, I don't care what happens after you initiate a program. If you put communism in any country that's been capitalist, it will succeed for 2, 3, 5 years, 10 years, because it's living off of the thing from before. Like, we want to see what happens in the long term. And so when a country like Amsterdam, or like a place like Amsterdam, Netherlands, legalizes it, that's the canary in the coal mine. Did it do what law enforcement in the United States said it would? Absolutely not. Do they have problems? Yes, they're human beings, so they still take heroin and get addicted. They still drink alcohol and beat their wives. But I'm not trying to solve that problem. I'm trying to solve the corruption of the black market. The cartels, the drug dealers, the not being able to get help, the not clean drugs, the not knowing what you get. All those are answered in 5 seconds when you say, nope, we're not doing that anymore.
So how did they do it in Amsterdam?
Flipped
like
it
that?
off. Well, I don't know. I'm just pretending.
Here's
I'm sure it was gradual. No governments do anything fast.
This really is two-pronged. Yes, I understand the wanting to take out the black market. I also agree.
That's the main enemy.
I also agree with legalization has the potential to make said drugs safer and or better,
and even better,
or better all around.
Yeah. Which could be a double-edged sword for sure.
Right, but there's also, I think, a moral responsibility for people in society, knowing, yes, you have free legal access to all this stuff, but we also understand, you need to understand, and we also understand that we're probably going to ultimately have a high number of people addicted to these drugs. So then does it become our collectively, community's responsibility to have more rehabs? You know,
it's up to that community.
So these are all just questions that I don't have answers to, just things that I'm thinking about. I don't have an opinion necessarily one way or another, just thoughts in my head.
A part of me has faith in human beings acting in their own self-interest, that there will be businesses that start to address these issues because there's a demand for these.
But it's almost like we're creating a whole new market if it becomes legalized. And I don't know if that's good or bad.
It's very good because it's already a market, but it's in the black market.
Yeah.
Just like we don't want nuclear weapons traded because there's bad things that can happen. We don't want drugs traded in it. It's all the same.
If we break it down to essentials, I agree with Zach's stance on this. The only part that I'm not entirely on board with is just flicking the switch and making that change like just right away. I think it does need to be a gradual thing because the alternative, well, I don't know. Like what I was saying, like I think we should, if I was to do it, I'd sit down and go, okay, here's a list of things that I feel like are broken and need to change all across the board, as many things as I can gather, and then I would start to order them by priority as to how big of an impact they're having and what sort of a domino effect I can predict that they would have if I changed just that thing, and then I will revisit that enough times with a lot people, hopefully a lot smarter than me.
Same, right? And that's what I'm hoping on with the market.
And then I would go, okay, well, based on our best analysis, which the first casualty of war is the plan. So I'm not saying it would be perfect my way, but I think it deserves that level of attention because the alternative is just this to me is the equivalent of if you were to put it in warfare. It's instead of being surgical and handling the problem, you just nuke the whole country because you're too lazy to deal with the actual people that are the problem.
After listening to people in the drug war, I don't think they have any clue on how to deal with the problem. Not one of them has offered a good solution. So I'm not sure that I want either. So I want to take away the government fucking around with this shit and experimenting on people's lives for the last 7 decades, and I want to take away the power of the black market immediately, and then deal with it through rational, above the table means. That's it. Like, there will be problems and there will be probably things that fail, but I want to do it without the black market and without government influence.
So our hypothetical we're working on right now is if we're making the reasonablest party, right? So Is drugs our first priority of things that we would change? Is that the first thing we would do?
No, it's all just
I think
fundamental
the first thing we would do is
Just- it's just
restructure government, right? Because that's the only way the reasonableist party could function the way we're talking about.
Well, if we legalize drugs, that would suit itself out, because then it would leave it to the people to decide what their community wants for their drug, for how they get drugs and how they deal with people that have problems with drugs. And then it's not a one size fits all. There's a judge that's like, well, I got to give you 3 years. Sorry.
Yeah.
There's none of that.
Well, and that's kind of it. So then I guess you just answered my next question. I was going to say if our first order of business is restructuring government to where it's micro rather than macro, forms of governance, let's say, instead of government, then at that point our stance on drugs doesn't really matter anymore.
Right.
Because it's up to communities.
Yeah, some
at that
communities.
point.
I mean, I'm for freedom. If people in a community decide like, no, we want to make that shit super illegal and you can't even have it interstate, fine. I'm not going to go to your state. That's fine. If you want to use blah blah blah. But I think just as a person that's looking at this philosophically, it's like we're trying to mandate morality, and it never ever 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 has worked ever. And there's no reason to hold on to that. Where it's like, well, what happens if they do this? It's like it's already super bad with the government and the black market. How does it get worse with human beings being treated fairly and respectfully?
Well,
I don't know.
I don't
Tell me.
disagree, but if you're just going to flick the switch on it, that seems antithetical to.
That's what we did in Washington for weed.
But listen, that's what seems like antithetical. But for weed, not all drugs all at once.
We just decriminalized all the drugs at once. Which is not the same, so we won't know how that works.
Right, and we'll see. But what I'm saying is, you can't. That's just flicking the switch on all of it all at once seems antithetical in nature to saying that you want a system that accounts for nuance, because that accounts for no nuance whatsoever.
The nuance is in these are two. This is a very binary thing. You know what I mean? It's like, are you free or not? So. Like we marched in, we can march right out. That's how this is. It's not like, oh, we need to taper it down because the THC is too high, or maybe if we introduced a methadone version of marijuana first. It's like, no, let people decide with the thing that's been around for hundreds of years.
I agree
what
with that.
they want to do.
I don't disagree with that at all. I'm just saying we should handle other things that aren't drug related in an appropriate order before we just say all drugs are good.
We can do all this
because
stuff
all
at the
drugs
same
aren't
time.
the same. I don't think so anyway.
No, I agree.
Maybe you guys disagree, but
No, I agree. I don't want people to have fentanyl because it'll kill them. Like, there's a good chance if they don't know how to gauge it.
what if they want it?
I know. I don't want them to have it, but I don't want
People
it to
kill
be illegal
themselves
for 'em.
with heroin before fentanyl too, or with cocaine, or with methamphetamine. I mean,
Yeah,
it's-
my little kitty butthole at the end of my sentence is like, I don't care what you do with your life. I want you to do what you choose to do with your life. As long as it hurts no one else, I don't care.
As long as you're not doing it in my yard.
Right. That affects me, and I don't like it.
Well, honestly, I mean, realistically, if there was some pipe dream way to make seriously drug use so amazing that nobody caused crimes to get their drugs, or families didn't fall apart and we didn't victimize each other over the shit, I'd say that'd be fucking awesome. But that's just not a reality.
No one thinks that's a reality. No one's brought that up.
There is something to be said for any change is going to create collateral damage. Like there's not going to be a perfect scenario, and I'm not trying to suggest that. Like there's change is uncomfortable and messy by nature. It's just the way that it is. So like you can't completely orchestrate, like to your point, you can't orchestrate all of people's reactions to something, or how their personal agency. When you say, hey, you can do what you want, it's like, cool, now that means you have a lot of responsibility, and a lot of people are gonna fucking not do well with that.
You said laws laws shouldn't dictate your morality. Well, all criminal laws dictate your morality. You get mad and break some shit, it's a law. Even though that's natural to feel that way and want to do it.
No, you can break your own shit.
No, you can't.
I can break anything I want in my house.
Get in a fight with your wife.
No. Break my shit.
I'm explaining something to you.
Okay.
Get into an argument with your wife and then break something that is solely yours. You're going to jail in this state.
Okay. Well, that doesn't seem like a rational, reasonable thing to me. That sounds like government decided some shit.
We're getting rid of that.
Right, but that
Right, but if I
point.
live by myself, I can break every single thing in my house, and no one's going to do anything to me, right?
Unless you had an argument with a girlfriend.
Right, but I'm not saying
There's
that.
stipulations to it.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you do heroin and you
that's why
don't affect
laws, you're
anyone,
not supposed to punch
nobody's
somebody
hurt.
else,
But if you hurt someone with heroin, then you do.
All the things that we would naturally want to do as animals, we have laws that go against our natural
Yeah, but do they help? Do laws help? Is laws keeping people from killing? Am I not killing either of you because I'm afraid of the law? Or is it because
Only
I
you
don't
know
want to be... Right.
Only you know why you haven't killed me.
Well, I'll
as
tell you
one
why.
of us
I
yet.
don't want to, because it doesn't make any sense. I don't want to be uncomfortable. I like both of you for one, but I don't want to be uncomfortable.
I didn't want to
Makes
kill
sense.
somebody either, but guess what? It happened.
Yeah, I know.
You know, I mean,
Well, different circumstance. I'll never be in that circumstance, probably, but maybe. Who knows? I certainly won't have a badge on.
Well, so as a observer to that exchange, I think there's merit to both sides, because there's definitely people that have considered killing somebody and then went, yeah, but I don't want to go to prison, so I'm just going to not do that.
yeah.
And
But it's deeper than that.
whether or not that was morality, maybe morality played a bit of a role in it. Like I'm not going to say that there was no morality involved, but the consequences and the legality were perhaps the deciding factor too. You know, so I think you can't really extricate the two from one another.
But isn't
at the
the
end of the day.
consequences minus government also extreme? Where it's like if you kill somebody that you shouldn't have, society doesn't we just forgot. Like society, whether there's a jail or not, they're not going to act the
I
same
think
way.
a lot
with
more
you.
people would die.
Yeah, I think
If
a lot
there
more
were-
people would
No,
get
I think a
killed.
lot more people would die, because that's how it
Absolutely.
used to be. If it's like, so if I killed your wife and then you went to the village elders and you're like, he killed my fucking wife, and then best case, if it was a civilized village, they put me on trial and then they decide if I get away with it and have some kind of punishment, like everybody whips me as I walk through the town, or they kill me. Or if you're not in civilization, it's just like, you came to my homestead and killed my wife, I'm gonna go get my friends and come to your homestead and kill you, because that's the only way that you can pay for what you did to my wife.
It depends on what your beliefs are. I mean, Christians never believe that.
Punishment.
Islam doesn't necessarily believe that.
Well, yeah, if you go back far enough,
Buddhism
Christians
doesn't
definitely
have
believe
a lot
that.
of-
They'd stone you for cheating on your spouse.
Punishment
Yeah,
is
for sure.
punishment is a good
For sure,
deterrent.
that's terrible.
However, so is shame.
But-
So is shame, which
Yeah.
is where the public aspect comes into it. So they're
Right,
both,
like
they're both
Japan.
equal. They're both good deterrents. I don't know if they're equal or not.
And we're not
It's
those
just
people.
nuance.
Things have progressed further
no
than that
idea.
now, so I imagine things would be a little different now. But I also kind of wonder, like if it's smaller forms of governance, or there's no magistrate to decide, or whatever that looks like, whatever form we've ever had. If there's none of that, and it's just up to people to decide how to even the scales, I think a lot more people would die.
That's fair. I mean, I disagree.
and I'm not necessarily saying that's worse than the current system, because a lot of people die in the current system too.
That's what I'm saying. It's like what we're talking about is decentralizing power, and it's like
Yeah.
it seems demonstrable to me that the more you centralize power, the more individuals are sacrificed for that power and that centralized service. So that's, to me, it seems like reasonable that you would definitely want to decentralize as much as possible, to where basically families are in charge of their lives more than, and individuals more than other groups that don't have your interests even known to them. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I think I agree with you, except I lean towards more towards communities being the micro rather than just family specifically.
Sure.
Well, but that comes into the communities that.
well, I've seen some
I think that comes
homeschool
into the
kids
leave
that
me
are
in-
scary, so I get you
Yeah.
there. for
I think
sure.
that comes into, by and large, leave me alone. But if my neighbor needs help, I'm going to get up and help him. That the
that's-
communities
yeah.
have to want to be willing and wanting to get up and help others. As
Agreed, and that's why I
true.
say, because like families are a weird kind of microcosm that can become an echo chamber that breeds some really awful, shitty,
Absolutely.
terrible things. So that's why I say we're social creatures by nature. So the whole like do what you want, believe me alone, except that you have to interact with each other, or you should, because you go crazy and become bad if you don't.
Yeah.
So like that's why I say communities would be the micro in my mind over just family units necessarily.
Yeah. And anything can happen in a community.
For sure,
You get
communities
a
can
big,
become that way
scary
too. But
government
it's it's just more collective perspective cast upon what's going on. And
agree.
I think that's good. So.
Yeah, I think freedom and people associating voluntarily is the ultimate way to cooperate with billions of people. I think that's the only, like, my whole argument is always that whatever the laws are, that's a group of people that sat down and were like, I think it should be this, just like we are. It's not much different, other than they have better data than we have, probably.
Maybe.
There's just people that are not smart enough to deal with the drug war. The drug war just showed us, it's like, well, government's certainly not smart enough. They literally tried to do things and got the opposite effect. And it's not their fault. It's just like economists would say about why Pokemon is popular. It's like, you can be the biggest Pokemon fan. You've been in it since the beginning. You know the artist. You have no idea why Pokemon is popular, because human beings, their reactions to things, their intentions, individual-wise, it's like rolling a trillion-sided dice every time.
It's because
You just
everybody
don't know.
secretly wants to fuck Pokemon. It all comes back to sex. 2.7, dude. That's
Pikachu is 1.7 of mine. All right. I don't know what we solved. I don't know, but I would say drug.
It was fun.
We'd never solve anything, but yeah. So we talked drugs.
I had a good time getting bristly with you guys. I love that shit.
That was fun. It was fun talking. I mean, you guys should know that Jeff is like he's been in this conversation for most of his
I see
career.
the world in such a different way that there's no way that I can verbally explain it to somebody unless you've got to come out. You've got to come out and see it with me,
Yeah.
or you'll never get it.
Right.
You can't.
Right. Well, that's like a lot of things too.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
But I guess that everybody probably has something in their life where they can take someone along and have that same
and they're blown away,
explanation.
and they're like, "Well, fuck." Yeah.
Jeff's also the nicest, most genuine asshole I've ever met. Too.
That is a fun.
But
kind of
genuinely an asshole.
Well, shit, we took some time. I didn't realize we were going to take.
That's all right. It's about time we had a long segment. That was
Yeah, I
good.
think so.
I think it was good.
I think so. So why don't we get into our fuck this thing, advice I give myself, and things I learned. Our little
Okay.
little fun things at the end of every show. Fuck this thing is Shaiden's thing, and it's kind of on the same topic we've been talking about a little bit.
Yeah. All right,
It's
let's
Big
get
Pharma.
deep again. I hope you kept your hip waders on.
Fear me, big fear me.
So we could do. I mean, shit. We could do episodes and episodes. I could probably do a podcast just on
How much you
big
love
pharmaceutical
Big
stuff
Pharma.
and how much I want to suck their collective dick when I
Eli
wake up in the
Lilly's
morning
cock.
instead of coffee. Cause
By
it's
the
better.
way,
But-
this shit is fucking phenomenal.
right?
She did
Yeah,
good,
this,
huh?
Damn.
this apple cider, man. Yeah, 100%.
She did good.
So I won't belabor the whole. We can revisit this topic in the future because there's way too much to unpack in one segment, I think. But my main thing I wanted to touch on with pharmaceutical companies is specifically the way that like antidepressants and SSRIs have been handled, since their inception to where we're at now with them, because I find it, and I have a personal stake in this because I was on antidepressants at one point in my life and it was not good for me, but I also had a parent that was very medicated 6 ways to Sunday by many different doctors, and I watched it completely destroy her for the better part of my youth, and so I lay a lot of that at the feet of certain pharmaceutical companies that created illnesses that weren't really illnesses just for the sake of making profits on drugs that they created to treat those illnesses that aren't really, they're not really adequate for what they're trying to say that they're treating. And I think the antidepressants, and there's a lot of different forms, like it's easy to just say antidepressants as like a blanket thing. There are different flavors, and I don't feel as poorly about all of them as I do, like I'm not going to throw them all out necessarily, but it's just quite evil to me when I look at it that as somebody who, so I'll give my personal story to make it anecdotal, and then we can get into some philosophy around it. But when I was living in Texas for college, a guy that who was in a band with me, and I really respected him and loved him a lot, and he told me one day that he started taking antidepressants, and I was like, well, so we had a conversation about it, and some of the stuff he said, I was 19 at the time, so I'm thinking, well, I don't know, man, maybe, like, I don't know, like, I had a bad knee-jerk reaction because of my mother, but I started to be introspective, and I thought, well, I don't know what I'm talking about. I never tried it, like, what if maybe I'm just talking out my ass and I have a bad stigma. So I went and talked to a psychiatrist, and I didn't tell anybody. I never told anybody that I was going to do it. I just went and did it. I was older than 18, so I didn't need anybody's consent to go do this,
Welcome, Shaiden.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming out to us.
Yeah. you got it, buddy. I feel so seen. But so I went, and they prescribed, I wish I could remember what it was, but I didn't care at the time. I was just like, these are the pills that I'm supposed to take, but I took them for all of a week, no, 2 weeks. And then I hated it. So I flushed them all down the toilet, and I had gnarly withdrawal symptoms for another week and a half after that. I thought I had the flu. I was, puking and had shivers and sweats and all this, and I was only taking them for a couple of weeks. And I can't imagine what it would be like to take them for years and years at a time and then try to, say, well, I think I've developed some coping mechanisms now, so I'm going to not do this anymore. And then it almost kills you when you go off of some of these things, So they're presented as a lifelong solution by a lot of, psychiatrists and doctors, and I think that is doing people a huge disservice, and I think that is largely because of pharmaceutical companies pushing their propaganda onto doctors, who are subsequently pushing it onto people who are the doctors are. I mean, shit, man. Doctors have to think about a lot of stuff.
What are the pharmaceutical companies? What's their number one goal?
Profit.
Right. So
they're a company. Any company, that's pretty much their primarily goal. Yeah, but the problem is it's at literally the expense of lives. Their profits come at the expense of lives and people's quality of life, and I think that's deplorable.
Well, what is their mission statement of these businesses? We got to kind of Iron Man the businesses too for a second. Like, human body is very complicated. Biochemistry is not a super well-known science as far as we know it all. You know what I mean?
For sure, yeah.
These companies are designed to try and help with human problems, chemical problems, right? So, I mean, I've railed against the pharmaceutical company for a lot of different reasons, for similar reasons too, where I've had personal experiences where I've watched things happen and blah blah blah. But I've also been taken to task by a bunch of people that know a little bit more about it too, where it's like there is a huge percentage of people that benefit from it. And I don't know. It's weird because I don't have a.
What's
I don't know where I
benchmark
stand
for
on this.
benefiting from it though? Like, what does that mean?
Being able to have a quality of life that they describe themselves as better than what they had before.
So I've heard that too. I've had those conversations too, and I don't claim to be a fucking expert. I don't know. Like, just because I tried it for 2 weeks and it was one, I don't know. But I've researched it to death because it matters a lot to me because of my personal experience. And
so, are we discussing merely psych drugs in general, depression or?
Yeah,
anything to do with the mind or
yes
feelings?
and no. I mean, we could open a whole can of worms about other drugs,
because I have some opinions just about where they're at with psych drugs to begin with.
So yeah, I'll finish this thought and then we can dive into that a little bit. I've had those conversations like you're talking about, Zach, and my hang up with that is there's been numerous case studies done where they do, double-blind control studies with one group is taking placebo and one group is taking the actual antidepressant, and they've gone further than that and doing one group is taking the placebo, but it's a activated placebo, which means that it causes some mild side effects like dry mouth or something, but it has nothing to do with your they think it's working for sure. Like, I'm
definitely not placebo.
Yeah, and not only that, the people in the placebo groups they have a higher perceived benefit most of the time, with the exception of I think 2 studies where that wasn't the case, but the rest of them, they had a higher perceived benefit in the placebo group than they did in the actual drug group, which leads me to believe that thinking that you're doing something. It seems tragic to where I'm going with this, but it seems tragic to me that, as somebody who's dealt with anxiety and depression since I was a little kid, I feel like it was built into me, and maybe it wasn't, maybe it was something that happened that, fucked me up when I was a kid. Who knows? But I've dealt with it my whole life regardless. And for somebody to tell me, hey, there's nothing you can do about that. You're just broken, but you have to take this pill for the rest of your life. It's like I had cancer or something, you know what I mean? They're like, you have to take this pill for the rest of your life and then you can live a normal life, and that's the only way. Right. That's heartbreaking. And I don't think that that's true for most people that are taking them. Maybe it is true for some, and I'm just an ignorant asshole. But the data that I've looked at just doesn't support that. I was yelled at for saying
the same thing, but I disagree with them. I agree with you, actually. I think a lot of people, just like Jeff, it's like motivating yourself is a better drug than most of the drugs they can give you.
Actual science
change some of your shit.
It's actual science to back up that a good diet and regular exercise it literally cures moderate depression.
Makes sense to me.
Not even mild, but moderate depression. Yeah. Why? Because you start taking care of yourself, you start giving a shit, you start having some consistency in your life, you start meeting some goals, and it changes your outlook on everything that you're doing. Yeah. Well, you start winning. You just start winning, and all you do is you develop momentum. It's honestly a simple fucking recipe.
Psychologically, that's true, but there's good biological science to back up what you're saying too. Because your brain functions on neurons. Neurons are all the messengers in your brain. the serotonin receptors in your brain is the only thing the SSRIs affect, which are antidepressants, the most commonly used antidepressants. They're not all SSRIs, but those are the ones that I have the most beef with because I think they're the most harmful and the most ineffective. But they change the way that the serotonin receptors in your brain receive serotonin. But there are 500 million neurons in your gut they're only connected to your brain through your vagus nerve, as far as vagus.
So you're talking about
vagus
numbers
nerve,
that aren't even really conceivable. So
yeah, well, so I mean, to put it in perspective, there's roughly 1 billion neurons from our best calculations. There's roughly 1 billion neurons in your brain, but there's 500 million. So your central nervous system, your guts, they're
links heavily.
They're a third of the equation, so it's like that's not and there's no antidepressant that treats that has anything to do with the nerve receptors in your gut.
Fair.
None.
Yeah.
So it's like, and not to mention the whole depression thing, it was invented by pharmaceutical companies in the 70s for housewives they called it what the shit did they call
shell
that?
shock?
It was just like, she's nervous from being at home all the time and doing housely duties.
I should know this because it's my generation.
Yeah.
But you have to understand that all the things that are existing today didn't even exist when I was a kid. They had hyperactivity.
Well, some of that's valid, but some of it
some of it's like
isn't.
science.
Right, yeah, I mean, there's, people eating plastic and shit and margarine and all
Tide
that.
Pods, baby, woo!
Yeah.
We ate paint chips. Paint chips were delicious.
We made some fucked up kids, I'll tell you that.
We were eating that pink shit in the fucking ceilings. Pink Panther shit.
It's not cotton candy.
It looked like cotton candy.
Asbestos. It has best in the name.
It's fucking pretty best. Shouldn't have named it something so cool.
Yeah. I mean, we had some kids on Ritalin, and they were called hyperactive, and there was like 2 or 3 of them. It wasn't every fucking child in the classroom that's stuck on meds. The brain itself has. I mean, they don't know shit about the brain, and I appreciate the fact that science is trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think they've
gone very
should.
far.
But I don't think that
that
depression is this chronic depression that we have throughout society. Most of it, my opinion, literally can be cured by starting to take care of yourself and make some better decisions in your life.
It can, at the very least. I disagree with you to a point, but I think the reason I disagree is because you say cured. I think it can be alleviated.
I'm not ignoring.
I don't think that it's something that you can just get rid of.
I'm not ignoring that there are chronic problems and some real issues, but I'm saying at the levels that medication is being promoted, either by the doctors for incentive from the pharmaceutical companies, without really having doctors that specialize that are prescribing for just said symptoms. I think that most of that probably doesn't really require medication, not to say all, or at least temporary medication. Temporary medication on top of, while you're on this medication, it should make you feel a little better. Take advantage of this and start eating salads and start going for walks and exercising. And hey, you know what? Pay your bills on time and get up. Instead of watching YouTube, get up and fold your laundry and get that shit done. Start taking care of your life, and it's amazing what happens.
Or get some help. It doesn't all have to be on your shoulders all the time either. Get some help. Start working on your support system. Go to a really good talk therapist. And there's a difference. A lot of talk therapists are shit, and it's okay to ditch a talk therapist because they're shit.
But unloading your
for
shit
anybody who's like,
helps
I'm
a
going
lot.
to therapy, but I don't really like it, but I'm doing it, and like, it's therapy. There's good therapy and bad therapy. There's good doctors and there's bad doctors. There's good farmers and bad farmers. There's good podcasters and there's us.
Just sitting in the shit.
But I agree with you with that last addendum. I think that if the whole deal was, look, you can use this, like, if you break your leg, you need crutches for a while. You don't have to, I'm not saying you have to just walk around in the cast or the air boot and suffer and stumble and like lean on people. You need crutches, So use it as a tool, and I'd have no problem with it. If it was peddled that way, I would have not the problems that I have with it, except for maybe a handful. But that's the biggest problem I have with it is don't rob people of the opportunity to develop adequate coping mechanisms. I'm depressed by default, and I've realized only recently that not everybody is that way. Like I've had a couple people in my life tell me that I believe sincerely. They're like, I don't know how it feels to be depressed, like you're talking about. Like I've been sad about things, but I don't know how it feels to be depressed. And I'm whenever things get quiet and nothing else is going on, I'm depressed. I've always been that way. Like and it's not like things kind of suck. Like I like it's a something I have to be proactive with, or it'll eat me alive kind of depression, you know. So but I don't look at it as this is an illness that I have that needs to be cured, or I need to get rid of that. It's part of me, you know. It's what makes me who I am, and I've learned ways to spar with it.
It ends
and
up
deal
causing
with it.
you to have drive is really what happens for you.
Yeah, it does, and sometimes it kicks my fucking ass, you know. And but I also have surrounded myself with people that understand me to a decent enough degree that they take it in stride, and they keep building me back up when I fall down, you know. And I think if that was the goal, rather than, hey, like, it's easy to just say, here, just take this pill for the rest of your life, and that's the solution.
I'd rather just hand you a stick of eyeliner and some black hair dye. You can do your thing for a couple weeks.
See what I mean? These people get me.
And he's much healthier because of it.
I got a leather trench coat you can wear around for a while.
So anyway, that's my little rant. Thanks for coming along on the journey with me, guys. I could go on about that for a long time, and I hope I didn't piss anybody off. If I did, send me. You just write me. Well, I would love to talk about it. I'm not militant about it. It just, I feel it. I have a lot of empathy because of my personal experience, both in dealing with my shit and dealing with people who have been handled poorly in
Let's
that
be
department.
real. Everybody in this world, at some point in their life, if they went to a doctor and unloaded on what the fuck was going on, we would all be put on medication.
Yeah.
1,000%. I believe that.
And I lay that at
And that's
pretty much
the problem.
mostly like 95%. I lay that at the feet of pharmaceutical companies.
Yes.
That's what I was going to say, too. It's like, well, this seems like a problem that this drug will help.
Yeah.
Really?
And
You
that's
sure?
a problem.
I don't know.
The other 5% is doctors that actually buy that lazily and just peddle it, you know.
Because
like that,
but there is genuine people that I do think need more help. Real clinical help. And I want them to get the help, but unfortunately it becomes such a saturated market, they don't get the fucking help, and other people are getting essentially poisoned instead.
Yeah, and it just seems like a bullshit solution to me too, because it seems lazy, you know.
So
it's just
eat
like,
a
here,
steak,
just
eat
take
it.
a pill. Literally, one of the side effects of a lot of SSRIs is you might find yourself wanting to off yourself. That's a side effect that they list on it.
Murder a bunch
and
of
it's
people.
like, isn't that what I'm taking it to not do? Like,
Wow, it doesn't work for everybody.
What the hell, you know? And
I
they're
guess-
like, well, disclaimer,
I guess-
sometimes it goes poorly, and it's like,
Yeah.
because you're trying to rewire something you haven't figured out.
Well, think about that.
For a thing that you kind of invented that you don't understand, and you're pushing it really hard because it's making you lots of money and it's easy.
Well, think about in their study, somebody whacks themselves. They can't really ask them at that point. So it must have been the drug. It had to be the drug. The drug.
Yeah,
did it.
Right. That makes us, we get lazy with that kind of stuff, too.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, how about this? Because we might be being a little bit lazy on this overall. Like, I've never seen data that shows how successful has this been in the long term for people in general. I have a feeling it's not great, but because we don't hear about it. You think if the pharmaceutical company was having success after success, they'd be like, 85% of people that take Paxil are fucking healed from, you know.
Well, and another argument that may go
love to see some data on that.
argument that may go in their way is part of a lot of depression and mental illness is when you're on your medication, the ones that do work for people, if they can find the right combination, they feel normal.
Yeah, and then they get off
When someone
it.
feels normal, you're like, well, I don't need this medication anymore.
They get off it.
And then the cycle repeats itself.
So it's the
But there's even more to it than that, because a lot of when you're taking a lot of SSRIs, if the side effects, so it's saying you feel normal, I don't know, like by comparison, like are you when I took it, I felt numb. I didn't give a shit about anything. It leveled out. It took my lows and it brought them up, but it took all my highs and squished them right down.
Yeah.
I didn't give a shit about anything, but I also had this little compartment in the back of my head the whole time that was furious, but I just didn't care enough to engage with it. I just had this little man in the back of my head that was like, fuck, like all the fucking time, but I was like, whatever.
That doesn't feel healthy.
You know, so like that numbness to me personally is not preferable. And maybe the alternative for me just isn't severe enough. Like, you know, I could see how numbness would be preferable over, you know, certain states of being.
Yeah.
But that's still doesn't strike me as a solution. You know, that strikes me as, okay, I got to figure out a better way to manage this, and I need this for now, otherwise I can't deal. And there's no shame in that, in my opinion. You know,
I had a medication experience. I guess it applies. I don't know if there's not much more than a story, really. But working graveyard for 20 plus years, there was a medication that was made for people. Initially, it was made for narcolepsy, to keep people awake. And then they found out that it was really good for people that work shift work.
Yeah.
So I actually
shift work.
Yeah, shift. Well, shift. Also, yes. The answer is yes.
Shift work.
Yeah, the answer is yes. Anyway, a buddy of mine was on it, and it was working really well for him. So I did actually try to go ahead and get medication, to deal with this issue because I was just getting beat at work.
Mm-hmm.
They would not give me that medication, but they gave me Adderall.
What? Perfect.
So they isn't an Adderall
and like,
is
here,
for
if you just take half
I,
of one of these, crunch it up, and snort it. Then
and they're like,
be all
no, just like they're like, no, do you have tinfoil? And then you put it. No.
The doctor's like, here's your medical grade
disclaimer.
tinfoil.
Nothing you
that
heard
was when I
on
had my
the
ankle
Just a Ride
surgery.
podcast is advisable.
That was when I had my ankle surgery, and they gave me oxys and in a roll of tinfoil. I didn't understand, but. Apparently nobody just swallows them anymore. Yeah, but I thought it was odd that they essentially would give me that medication as opposed to what the hell I was asking for.
Money, baby.
Yeah. And guess what?
Didn't work.
Remember that time I talked about today taking meth? It was kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was awesome. It was great. I'm like, oh my God, this is legal right now.
Yeah, Adderall. Whatever.
And I feel great.
Isn't Adderall what they give? Well, that's Ritalin. But don't they give Adderall to little chitrons? Or no?
Yeah. Yeah. Like Tic Tacs.
Yeah, okay.
Do they still? I thought they did for a while, and then they were like, maybe we shouldn't, but
No, it's still pretty
still
big.
going.
Does that sound like an industry that's just right on top of the science?
Yeah.
Maybe we should. I don't know. But maybe
we could probably revisit the pharmaceutical stuff because, like I said, we could get way off into the weeds in that, and I've got a lot of.
I say we come back to it. I mean, we have a song.
But
Sovereign has a song called "Drug Dealer" coming out on this new album. That's
right.
Explains my views on it.
Shameless plug. We have a new album coming out.
And it's
You're doing
definitely
that one.
about this.
Good
Yeah,
for you.
yeah, it's gonna be a fun one. But yeah, and I wrote that about a family member where I watched her go from being a very productive, incredibly intelligent, very creative person to just a little slug
Vegetable,
because she was young and she decided to do mushrooms or something, and so her parents punished her by what it looked like to me as a kid was punished her by taking her to the doctor and giving her.
They should have just let her become a really cool hippie lady.
She is now. That is
perfect.
And, her
she
life,
found her way.
Her life is maybe a little bit, maybe not what people would like for her to have and stuff, but it is her life, and I think that's probably better.
She deserves to have it.
That's right. All right, Jeff, you've got some advice I give myself, which is don't fucking. Well, you tell it. It's don't worry about what people think.
Yeah, essentially, it's. Don't ever worry about what others' opinion is of you when you're making a decision for yourself.
A big decision or just in general?
Really in general. It doesn't really matter. No matter what you do for yourself, somebody's going to be pissed off about it. That's the reality.
You're not saying ignore people's advice. You're saying don't listen to their bitching and complaining. And,
yes, you're always going to piss somebody off.
Shit talking.
When you're trying to improve yourself, there are people that are just waiting for you to screw up, right? And a lot of times in life, we make decisions. We're living in a situation. We want to change our situation. It's going to hurt somebody for you to do something for yourself. That's just the way that it is. Mm-hmm. Be the kind of person. Weigh out what you got going on, no matter what it is. Make your decision and be comfortable in your decision. Understand that you might be wrong. You might fail at what you're doing. And not everybody's going to support you, and you might even hurt somebody else's feelings. But the reality is, it's your life. It's the decision that you're making, and you get to either reap the rewards of your decision or pay the consequences, and that is just life. You don't waste the time to worry about what other people think. That was a huge problem in my life.
I think so for me too.
Always going above and beyond. Essentially trying to, win people's love and respect. When the reality is, I'm living for other people. And then when you start doing things for yourself, people start getting upset. don't care. Do it for yourself.
Yeah.
This is your life. You get to live it.
Yeah.
And if you decide not to do something because you're afraid of what somebody else is going to think, or it might hurt somebody else, again, it's situational, obviously.
Be rational. Don't affect. You know,
yeah. Don't go out being a dick on purpose.
Well, this person's going to die if I decide not to do this, but fuck them.
But goddamn,
But I really want to play Assassin's Creed tonight. So.
Fuck them, let them die. It's great.
make a decision, do it, and either reap the rewards or the consequences, and then do it again the next day.
There you go.
So it seems like if I was to come at that from it, because I'm trying to rationalize it in my own head, because I think I agree with you, but it seems like what you're driving at is it's good to consider how your actions are going to affect other people in your life, but you shouldn't allow someone else's potential displeasure with something that you need to deter you from going after the thing that you need, especially if it's not being done with
malicious.
The intent of hurting them, if you're
malicious.
just looking out for yourself and it doesn't necessarily suit their view of you or make them more comfortable, that shouldn't keep you from doing it if it's something that's important that you need.
Can we just set a default for this show that everything we talk about is based on reasonable and rational? Okay, don't start. We say these things. Don't start thinking about these extreme situations.
Yeah, except for shitting the bed.
It was reasonable and rational at the time.
I feel like you handled it pretty good. You handled
Honestly,
it pretty good.
knowing who it was, I'm
slunk in there.
a little disappointed you didn't handle it a different way.
Yeah, you should have just plopped it in her mouth.
I didn't know yet.
Here's a little poopy for your mouth.
Yeah, I agree with your premise, though. Yeah, it's obviously asterisk. Don't be a cunt just because you want something. Like, I really want to buy an Xbox, but my kids won't be able to eat.
Fuck them.
How many times in life do you not do something because it's going to upset somebody else?
A lot.
Yeah.
Most part of the human.
It's a lot of. I think that's the most prevalent in romantic relationships and relationships with your parents. I think is the two places where that comes up the most, and that's
But those are the relationship. You're always going to have your relationships with your parents, until that they cease to exist, or yourself, and part of our being is romantic relationships. But I mean in general. So we're always in and out of those throughout life.
Yeah.
Yep. But at the end of the day, you're the only one that has to live in your skin.
Exactly.
So you gotta. No, but you can't expect other people to look out for you necessarily.
No, not really.
It's
nice
it
if
kind
you
of
have
lands on
people
your
like
shoulders.
that.
When you find a pot of people that constantly encourage you, it's
nurture that shit.
Or kick
it's
your ass when you're
amazing.
out of line.
Either one. Well, either one are valuable.
Yeah, that's same almost.
But when you tend to have respect for someone that's kicking your ass when they're generally supporting you, and they stop.
If they're
wait a
lovingly
minute.
kicking your ass.
Yeah, wait a minute, dude. You're fucking stop doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
I might have respect for somebody that's normally supported me versus somebody who's always just told me to stop doing what I'm doing.
Trying to shit on whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Or
Always.
don't care. Yeah.
Agreed.
When you brought that up, it made me think of a quote that has always stuck with me. It's one of those tools that I use where it's like, other people's opinions of me are none of my business. It's just that simple.
Exactly. You
And
can't
it's like,
control it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly stress about it. It can cause anxiety for sure. Where you're like, "What do they think? Did I mess up what I said?" And I do it all the time. But it's that reminder where it's like, it's not my business. I can't affect the change. I have to go have this weird, awkward conversation. Like, did I come in awkward there? And they're like, "You are now."
Yeah.
It's like, oh well.
Either they give enough of a shit about me to give me enough of a benefit of the doubt to have further discourse about it, or they don't and they piss off and I can't do anything about that. Really, I'm
Either way, I'm going to go jerk off and play Assassin's Creed, pet the dog
at the same time.
I get
Vikings.
I am a multitasker.
So, yeah, well, that's interesting though, because if you guys had pressed me to come up with an advice I give myself, like I've been drilling myself the last couple of weeks on not comparing yourself to other people, which falls right. That's like squarely a part of what you guys are talking about, because it robs you of the joy of your own personal accomplishments. Like it's just like, hey, shit, like I wrote this song and I'm super stoked. I'm just relating it to my own fucking. I wrote this song and I'm super stoked, and then you like look at some other musician, you're like, fuck, their song's way better than mine. Like, and then now you feel like this thing that you poured your soul into is trash, and that's not right, man. Like
the way you should look at it is like
yourself.
the song that I wrote 5 years ago compared to now, it's so much better.
compare
or
yourself to
whatever.
yourself or nobody at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can run up the chain and compare yourself to enough people where you're going to start finding people that make you feel lesser instead of more.
Oh yeah, there's always somebody
But it's
better.
not good to do the other way either. Like, I'm better than them. It's so.
Well, tell me-
Yeah, enjoying
I am,
yourself.
though.
So
on
I've
I
been,
am, though.
my son's
Just so you
young,
all know.
and I've been trying to give my son advice, and it's like one of the things that I learned. And it's kind of part of stoicism and kind of that format of thinking is like on the opposite token, I guess, but not in the same way. You look up to like men or women, people that you respect, and like one of the things I've told my son, it's like read biographies of people that you find respectful or that you want to, and it's not to copy them and it's not to compare yourself to them, but it's to learn like. I have no idea how to be a human being.
Well,
what did they do? And
You're
what did
learning
they
disciplines is what
Yeah.
you're doing.
learn? Right. So I mean,
learn from them, but don't want to be them.
right. But
you know.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's good to find out. When you're like, man, has anybody ever felt like this? And it's fun to like read about a football player or a former prime minister or something. You're like, they went through that shit. There's something special when it's a quiet moment in your own mind from a book. from
jerked off with their left hand too.
I'm not alone. Southpaw, fucking shadow boxers.
We get a righty down here. It's just going to really fuck up the circle.
Yeah, that's no. Any guest we have on the podcast has to be a verified southpaw. Or
That's
we
right.
can't do it.
We'll throw it off. Well, why don't we close off the podcast talking about the brand new merch, shall we?
The
Yes.
brand new merch.
We got brand new merch. Thank you, Mrs. Scriptkeeper, for putting together.
Amazing work.
We have 3 new designs. We've got the Shadow Boxer.
Is it
which-
bad to buy your own merch? Because I'm gonna.
I wear my own merch all the other time. If local bands haven't given me clothes, I would never be clothed. But now, if SkatCast didn't exist, I wouldn't have any clothes. Although, what am I wearing? I got Sovereign Citizen shirt, yeah, and a Yankees hat, and no pants. But yeah,
Fuck
we have
pants.
We have at SkatCast.com in our merch store. You can find our What's Your 2.7? Jeff's very scientific 2.7 fetishes. And I like that question. That's a good
That's a good question.
That's a good starter for like a conversation at the bar.
I mean, none of this. That's
Like, what's your sign, baby? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
do you like poop on your chest?
Yeah.
Should we be
No.
extra militant to anybody we have on the podcast in the future as a guest and just start the episode?
What is your
like, What are your
2.7?
2.7 fetishes?
Do you raw dog life?
Are you a shadow boxer by nature?
I need
Are
to
you
see.
Southpaw shadow
I need to
boxer?
see this week's Pornhub search
Let's see what you got. Show me what you got.
I like.
because I
what
want to
you
see if you lied about your 2.7.
That's right.
or if your 2.7 are going to alter my 2.7.
Or what if it's like 13.4? You got a lot of fetishes, buddy. I don't
Is
know
there
why.
anything I can learn out of this?
He just doesn't like normal sex. That's all.
Yeah. What's the raw dog in life one? We got a.
There's a raw dog in life, and
shirt.
it is a cute little hot dog,
Man.
a very original hot dog with a bunch of gunk on it. But I love the tongue sticking
The tongue is the
Yeah.
best. It has kitty butthole on the tongue. And that is. I laughed. So I laughed probably more than I should have, but it was uncontrollable.
It was
laugh.
made specifically with you in mind. I'm quite sure.
Yes, it was the tongue, because we've actually done an
Monique's
event
over there
called.
like,
We
yeah.
did an event called Getchfest for a few years, Nightlife Network and us. We worked on it, and the logo for it was your face
Yes.
with your tongue sticking out.
I
So it was
have
perfect.
I have large appendages, and I do have an exceptionally long tongue.
He's got a Gene Simmons tongue.
Are you advertising right now? That's weird. It's a
Apparently,
weird
yeah.
flex. Bro.
Apparently, I am.
I've got huge things,
I have.
my
mainly tongues and fingers and
my
toes.
old man used to say, if you keep sticking your tongue out like that, a bird's gonna fly by and shit on it.
Well, there's a little
And I
kitty
believed
butthole.
him. I should have said that. I forgot all about that.
I mean,
That
it
would've
should have. It could have happened.
Yeah.
It's possible.
You know, probably happened to somebody once.
So we got raw dog in life, which I think is how I like to do life. I think we all kind of like to do life like that. We've got the Shadow Boxing Academy. Is it Academy or is it the gym? Well, I can't remember exactly the name of it. It's Shadow Boxing something,
yeah.
but it's
Standby.
standby.
I didn't
We're-
have my
we're
Google
researching.
machines up.
Yeah, hold on.
Shit, you made the thing, wife. You're sitting right there. You're like, it's a club, Shadow Boxing Club.
Yeah, and you don't talk about it.
We don't talk about it at all, especially before 20 something, because it's very embarrassing. But then after that, you can talk about it.
You
Fine.
can compare notes in small circles after that.
So we've got the What's Your 2.7?
I believe I was challenged by Donald to do a video of a forum that I brought up in another show. Donald, no. The answer is no.
Sorry, I love you.
But
Fuck
I
off.
am going to start my own,
Well, if you guys would like to support the show, we don't have a Patreon yet, but we do have, of course, this merch. So go ahead and join. Go to SkatCast.com and you can get one of those 3 things.
Yeah, grab the
Or
merch.
all of them,
You
if
could
you want.
also send us an email, and you can tell me specifically how much you hate me for talking
There
shit
was
about
one more thing.
That's
antidepressants.
right. Just
It's
a ride
Just
pod.
a Ride Pod.
And you can label it "Fuck you, Shaiden."
Yep.
Fuck
Put
you,
that in the subject. I
Poobah.
would appreciate
I
that.
believe, wasn't there a cleanup towel in that as well?
There is. There's the rally towel. I
The
think
rally towel.
I sold a few of those already.
that would be a
name.
nice little combo kit with the Dr. Schmoggy's
Ball oil.
ball oil.
Oh, we didn't know there were towels available. I didn't know. It's on now. That is a good
It's
idea
on.
because we're working on some
That's a
jerk
nice
juice.
little
We
kit.
have
Yeah.
lotion coming.
Yeah, we got motion lotion, jerk juice.
Lotion, lotion.
We want Dr. Smokey wants you to
We
jerk
get
it with
the,
pleasure.
the,
right? With a good smell and fine, it's a good
The Love
lubrication.
Potion 69 candle with the Shadow Boxer shirt and some Dr. Schmoggy's ball oil
We'll call this.
and the
we'll
towel,
call
and
this.
the cleanup towel.
We'll call this Wank Boz gift basket.
Just get a nice ambiance going on in the bathroom. Yeah.
All right, I said
Anyway, if you want to support us being total fucking
total gross,
ridiculous
12-year-old boys for the rest of our lives, we could use your money. SkatCast.com. All right, there is actually one last thing because we wanted to talk about the daycare at the casinos.
Oh yeah,
Things we learned this week.
perfect ending.
Things I learned this week. So I decided to we decided I
Don't lump me into this. I do
Or
not
me.
consent.
What's going on?
Holly and I decided that for whatever reason we wanted to just go to the casino and people watch, which is exactly what we did.
Nice.
And I hadn't been to the casino in a long time. Anybody that knows me knows I used to be a huge poker player and just
He bought a truck off that shit.
and a 4-wheeler actually,
Yeah.
but I honestly don't have time to.
The day they bring
to do it
cribbage
anymore.
back to a casino,
Jeff
will be
is
the
all-
day we lose.
Jeff.
I
Jeff.
would love to do a cribbage tournament.
Domination.
Yeah, no, I was a poker guy. Anyway, I hadn't been to the casino in a long time. And what I learned this week is inside the casino is a goddamn Kids Quest daycare. Now,
Loser.
I'm all for daycares for children. Honestly, I'm all for casinos. The two of the businesses together, that is just bad fucking
Little
business. So now, I mean, the one thing that would keep a gambler from going to the casino is, fuck, I got to stay home and take care of my kids.
Which
oh,
is
no,
arguably
Not
good.
anymore.
we're going to solve that problem for you.
We
got
thought
you
of
as
that.
a Kid Quest. So
Get
now
your
for
Kid
the
Quest
low, low
card.
cost of probably $8 to $10 an hour, you can throw the kids in there for, they're open 24 hours. You can throw days, weeks. I don't know if the kids live there. Give them lunch. I don't
Hey,
really
man.
know. But you
Personal
can go
agency, dude. Personal agency.
in a matter of hours, you can piss off their whole college fund. And
While
they're
they're
just
in the
having
building.
a great time.
While they're in the building, you can go rub it in their face, really.
Yeah.
Be like, Mommy spent all
You
the
got a
shoe money.
50% chance they're not getting touched.
I'm just trying to imagine the casino daycare. Like they got little slot machines in there with play money. They're like, we got to get them while they're young.
yeah.
We're making this generational.
These
baby.
oversized cards. That they're-
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of Texas Hold'em, it's Texas Hug'em and shit like that.
Story time is like teaching you how to hit the jackpot, you know, and
They did have oversized dice in there. I don't know what that was about.
They have an
foam
animated
dice with
version
the
of
craps table painted on the floor.
They have an animated version of Rounders, the movie. They're just like, this is great. It's just a series.
They had a merry-go-round in there, but it looked like a roulette wheel.
all the staff
Always
was
sit on
dressed-
black.
All the staff was dressed like Ocean's 11 for some reason.
And there's just this really cool gangsta music on at all times. Just-
That struck me as probably not one of the better things society
That
is.
doesn't.
I'm all for convenience.
It's like
Convenience is
drive-through
cool
liquor
at
stores
times.
kind of thing.
So you're not
Sometimes
gonna
not.
take the kids there and go.
I don't think it's a really good idea. I mean, I understand the temptation. I
It
get
says
it.
something about you a little bit.
But it
doesn't
just kind of opens up.
I don't care.
I'm not saying we'll
fuck.
judge you, but I'm not saying we're not going to judge you
I'm
out.
saying I'm judging them.
It just
I'm flat
opens
out
up
judging.
to the world to, oh my God, I can drop the kids off at Kids Quest. I can get myself a hooker, play me some Texas Hold'em,
Their shit will cost exactly $63.
get myself a hotel room.
Yep. Burn their college fund.
Oh my God. It's a great day. And then go home to the little missus.
So Vegas has got to have like a robust version.
I would
of like
assume so. I
Kids
haven't been to
Land.
Vegas in years.
We were there, but we didn't give a shit because we
But here
didn't
in
have any kids.
Spokane, Washington, we got daycare while you gamble.
We'll take all your kids.
Vegas is one thing, but I feel like I would really like to. I'm veering a hard left here, but I thought about this the other day when I was thinking about like adult vacation things to do.
Naked.
I want to
General.
go to. You can't say naked with
That's
what
just
I'm
naked.
about to say.
This is another one of those things like,
I wanna
it's about chitrons.
I want to go to fucking Disneyland.
Yep, fired.
with only adults. I feel like that would be
If
so
it's
much
only
fucking
adults,
fun.
only adult, I'm going naked.
Serious?
I'm wearing ears.
So he was right to say what he said in the first place.
It's been nice having you on, Just
Actually, I'll wear the goofy hat.
Okay, I'll take the ears then if they're up for grabs. Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Have you ever been to Disneyland?
I've never been.
I got stuck on the Matterhorn one time. We actually had to
Stuck?
unload us off, and I got to walk through the whole mountain.
Cool.
No shit.
All the behind the
I
scenes
have
shit.
lots of mishaps on roller coasters, but I haven't died yet.
Well, that's good.
How did that happen? Like at Silverwood or like at the fair or at
Oh no!
Disneyland?
At Great America, when Montezuma's Revenge used to be there, which part of that ride, or the corkscrew?
I
excuse
thought
me.
Montezuma's Revenge was diarrhea.
Corkscrew. Well, there's a ride
it is.
called that. No, the corkscrew.
Good
Which
sense.
Wow,
now,
great.
And it's got Mickey Mouse on it for some
I
reason.
want to go on the
Donald Duck.
diarrhea ride, Dad.
You got it.
the corkscrew, which is now at Silverwood here in Idaho, that used to be at Knott's Berry Farms in California.
Really?
I was on that ride.
know that.
I've been there.
It's just
I
a
love the
little
corkscrew.
portion. It's just
It's
a
short, but it's fun.
Well, that's just a small portion of the ride.
Oh.
The ride was huge.
That's fucked up. I want the
And-
rest. Where's the rest?
My sister and I were in the
Spokane,
front row.
dude.
We
What do you
got
want?
stuck on the top of that. I was at another one at Great America where you rode these horses, like
Real
like-
horses?
No, they were
Or
like
fake
plastic horses.
No, they
like with
strapped
little,
real horses to
with
the
like
roller
That's what I
coaster.
want. I'm a consumer. Give me what I want.
Absolutely. Those Clydesdales.
Okay, yeah. Fuck yeah, those make me cry. Budweiser, all the way.
Anyway,
Sorry, I'm broken in a lot of ways.
I'm gonna die.
it was awesome. You like straddled these little plastic horses and went on this roller coaster. Well, like 2 rides after I got off,
Did
one
they
of them
strap
didn't
you to them?
stop, hit another car that was loading up and killed like 3 people.
Wait, what? You were on it?
No, I was
Oh,
like 2 times. It was 2 rounds after I got off,
and it killed
and it
people.
crashed. Yeah, killed a couple.
Fuck, dude.
That's wild.
I was on the skydiver at Rose Parade down in Portland when I was in junior high.
Are
And
you, like, listing off all the times you almost died?
I was
Yeah.
at the Batman ride, and Batman stabbed me. He usually
I didn't
doesn't
know you were
stab
such a
people,
theme
but he
park
stabbed me.
aficionado,
Yeah,
bro.
I've had all kinds of stupid shit.
I was at the Superman ride, and he fucking called me a bitch. and a cunt. I hate him.
I shoved kryptonite in his eye.
Tried to do the Star Wars thing, and they fucking shoved the thing on my ass. I don't know.
That's why
I
you
know
hate
what's going on.
sci-fi.
That's why
We
I
just
hate
figured it out.
Sorry. Continue with your story. You gave us a softball in him.
There
Just
was
swang and swang and swang.
there's this place up in BC I went to with my old man. They have this thing called the Pipe. It's a ski resort, big ski resort, but they have this thing called the Pipe in the summertime where you get in this car and it's like a monorail and it's you're by yourself and you have a little handbrake too. So like you're kind of in control of it.
Oh, the
But
Alpine
there's-
slides is
but
what
there's
they were
other
called
people-
on Mount Hood.
Okay, yeah.
There's
This was
variations
the
that
first
can be
time I've
dangerous, huh?
seen. There's the first time I've seen this, but like you controlled your speed to a certain, but you're not the only one on the ride.
Crash like
You know,
that. Yeah,
so
you
you
can
can
wipe
just
out on those
wreck.
things.
You can wreck into people. You know, so I was like, and they have signs like slow down here. You know, but like of course people are like fuck it. You know, it's like
I don't listen to
me and my
signs.
dad wrote it down and it was super fun. I had a great time. I got off literally as I was getting off. The girl behind me got wrecked into so hard she flew off of her thing, like up onto the cars in front of her.
Whoa.
Probably was hurt, and then I found out through just hanging out that the person that wrecked into her was her fiance that brought her there.
Oh no!
I was like, that's not gonna last.
Oh, you hurt me.
Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wild, man. I'm like, that's probably not good to give people their own control over the
It
brakes.
doesn't sound like it. So basically, we need government to take over the world and just do
Yeah,
big government
obviously,
stuff.
big government. That's the answer.
That's what I got from that. I don't know. That's what I got from this whole show. Is like just do lots of government things. Give those people the power that they desperately desire.
They've earned it,
'Cause,
right?
Yeah, they earned it. They're better. They're basically
they're
better
better.
than you.
They're better. Obviously, they're
bigger,
better than
harder,
us.
faster, stronger.
This brings us back full circle. Eat the bugs. Just eat the fucking bugs.
Live in
You
your
will
pod,
eat the bugs and
own
you'll like
nothing,
it.
be happy.
You'll like it. All right. Well, this has been Just a Ride podcast number 8, I believe.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for hanging out. And then we'll talk at you in the future. We'll seem like the present. Bye.
Bye.
It's just a ride. Whoa, oh, it's just a ride.
Bing.
Bong. Boo.